early. We wound up not doing as well offensively, so we were frustrated by that. We're really frustrated by the whole year in that regard, that it wasn't a clean year all the way through.
This is a special KJR sports presentation, The State of Seattle Football, on your home for the 12th man in the NFL. Sports Radio 950 KJR.
I'm not letting this last game dictate the way we evaluate this season. We did too many good things and learned a lot and have a tremendous future.
Now here's Chuck and Buck.
Hey, good morning and welcome in. It is the State of Seattle Football specialty show right here on Chuck and Buck in the Morning, Sports Radio 950 KJR. Right now we are broadcasting not just on your radio dial. We are also on YouTube. We are on Facebook. We are on, what else? Any live website out there. We're probably on it.
We're on Twitter.
Yeah, we're probably on raunchyanimalz.net. We're probably on everything right now. So welcome into the program as we are going to talk about Seattle Seahawks football for the next 3 hours. And then we're going to do it again on Softy and Fane show this afternoon as well. So we're putting it all out there for you. And we have gathered our KJR hosts together this morning. Your session will include Matthew Slickhawk Mikolas, Jason Puckett.
Good morning.
David Softy Mahler, and of course, Bucky Jacobson as well. I'm just going to host things today. I'm just going to navigate you guys through all of these major Seahawks topics that we're going to discuss. We're also going to highlight our tremendous sponsors that we've had throughout the football season, like Bud Light Seltzer, for example. Thank you so much, Bud Light Seltzer, for being a great partner and supporter of ours and sponsoring Bud Light Seltzer Football Fridays during the 2020 football season. Go ahead and get it out of the way, Puck. I know you can't wait to comment. You think my beanie's silly, and you wonder why I have a Christmas tree up.
No, I love the Christmas tree being damn, like the inflatable dog that's in our front lawn still up. Yeah, no, it's, you know what, COVID, Chuck, you can do anything you want during COVID. So I love the beanie's another story. We can get to that. It's great. You got to pay something, don't you?
Yeah, I think this is more of State of Seattle football. This is a State of Seattle or KJR hosts broadcasting arrangements.
I just want you to take it off. Can we take the beanie off?
Yeah, I will for a little bit. Yeah, look at that.
Put it back on.
Oh
please.
my! Look at that hair.
Oh my God! You never want to see behind the curtain.
I look like Larry and his brother Daryl and his other brother Daryl. But look at Bucky, Softy. Look at that guy.
Yeah.
Now there's a broadcasting arrangement right there.
Yeah, that right there looks like a scene that you don't want to see before 7:30 in the morning. Wow.
What are you talking about?
I can't unsee that ever. That whole setup he's got right there.
Hey,
Bucky, have you been banished outside by the wife, or is this just out of necessity? Like, is that where you sleep now? What's the deal?
I don't make the big bucks like you do. I have a little house and a sleeping child in there, and so I'm outside in my cabin, open air. You guys will get to see the sunrise come up right behind me. And for you, Softy, and for all the people watching on our live stream, if you could dim the lights, like all the way down to dark, that would be nice.
Yeah, well, listen, man, I know a lot of people would love to have the lights off when it comes to my face, but Chuck, I know what I'm getting you for Christmas next year. I'm getting you a Floby, baby, because you need it, man. That's bad. I mean, there's just no way around it. That's just awful. Simply put, it's bad. This is rock bottom for you. I mean, great news. There's only one way to go, and it's straight up. I mean, look at Matt. Look at Slick. He's a nice, well-groomed young man.
Yeah.
Clearly brushed his teeth. He takes care of his hair. You've just given the hell up.
No, yeah. As our boss Rich Moore told me, it looks like I now live under an underpass. That's what he told me.
Well, he'll fit right in here.
All right. So before we get started,
this is how Fargo started, by the way. You know that. It's the look right there.
Before we start talking football, I just feel like this has to be done. Everybody else has been ripped on but Slick. So somebody say something horrible about Slickhawk, please.
Well, I wouldn't have worn a child's small shirt today.
What are you talking about? Hey, I don't know. That's a Yush media stadium.
I mean,
This is like it's like a 3X according to the NFL. I don't know.
I'm wearing a shower curtain sweatshirt right now. So
That's okay.
who am I going to talk?
Well, you see us in our natural state, and now we all gather to share our opinions on the Seahawks. The season that we just watched, the off season that's ahead, that's got so many unanswered questions. And then even looking forward all the way to 2021. And so let's go ahead and dive in, gentlemen. I mean, it was a good year. We follow a great organization. I mean, there's a spoiled kind of atmosphere around here, but the bottom line is you go 12-4, you win a division, you got one of the best quarterbacks on the planet. You ask a lot of questions after you get eliminated from the first round of the playoffs. Puck, I'll start with you. I mean, this was a team 5-0 at one point in the season, and with the talk of the National Football League. Russell Wilson is the runaway MVP frontrunner through a third of the season, and it ends by getting knocked out by a pretty good Rams team in round number one, and we're sitting here wondering what could have been. In your estimation, where did 2020 go wrong? Why did they not accomplish more?
Well, I mean, I think that, there's probably a lot of factors why it went wrong. I mean, I think after those two games, I think in Buffalo and the Rams, just in my opinion, I think there were some things that obviously happened in those games offensively where I think you could see where Pete Carroll got nervous about it. But I also think those two games is really what changed the fortune of the season, because I think you had a head coach that, wanted to neuter the offense. And I think he even said it after the Rams game. And I think once he did that, instead of allowing, I think, that offense to just kind of play out, even though that's not kind of his brand of football, if the defense would have improved, and it was improving, then you could have coupled that defensive improvement with the offense you had in the beginning of the season. Now, maybe he'll say, well, the defense improved and the offense got better because, the defense was shutting teams down. We weren't, throwing the ball all over the place and that. But I think those two games kind of changed the fortune, I think, of the season, in my opinion. I think that they were rolling. I don't think they should have got scared off by a couple of bad games and some interceptions. And I think it cost them. I think ultimately it's too hard to play, I think, the brand of football he wants to continue to play. I think it's too hard in 2021. But, I think the fortunes of the defense got better, partly because, the players got healthier. But I think the opponents played a large part in that. But I think that that two-game stretch was probably the turning point for me.
Yeah, Softy, I mean, it was strange watching a 5-0 team that was putting up historically bad defensive numbers. I mean, it was odd that we're watching an undefeated team and we're got to be worried about this. And then for the second half to have been completely the opposite, where the defense starts playing like, at least putting up the statistics that you expect out of a Pete Carroll defense, but at what cost? I love Puckett's analysis of the season and where it goes wrong. Where do you jump in on that?
Well, I just want to go back to what you just said there in the open, because I'm just shaking my head, and I just got to get this off my chest. I mean, you mentioned it was a good season by the Hawks, and I totally disagree with that 1,000%. I mean, good season by whose standards? The Lions standards, the Cardinals standards? Maybe by the Lions standard, it was a great season. By Arizona standards, it was a good season. By our standards, it was an absolute fail. I mean, who gives a damn what they do in the regular season? We've had this conversation many times about, college basketball. If you're Gonzaga, for example, do you really care what happens in the regular season? No, the only thing you're judged on is what you do come tournament time. So you lost in the first round for the second time in 3 years. You're in a giant hole again at halftime to a team with a freaking quarterback with a busted thumb. You said it yourself on your show. That was basically the Rams' third-string quarterback because their first-string quarterback was hurt. Their second-string quarterback had a concussion, and the third-string guy was a starter with a broken thumb. And, oh, by the way, their best player and maybe the best defensive player of our lifetime was out for the entire second half. So I don't look at 2020 as anything but a massive fail for the Seahawks. And I would just go back and look at the second half of the year. They're winning games. Their defense is playing better because they're playing nobody on offense. They're playing the worst offensive teams in the NFL. I mean, let's not sugarcoat this thing, man. They got better on defense in large part because they played nobody of concern offensively. And shame on them for losing to Colt McCoy and the Giants, because if they would have won that game, things may have been different come playoff time. But it was obvious to me in the second half of the year that they were not ready to make a run through the playoffs because their best player wasn't playing well. And that's Russell Wilson, either A, because the shackles were put on by Pete Carroll. B, there was some kind of miscommunication or lack of, continuity between him and Brian Schottenheimer. He was banged up. He was in a fog. We got guys like Randy Mueller, ex-NFL GM, coming on the air saying Russell doesn't look right at all, like he's totally out of focus. Millen saying the same thing. So that to me was a major red flag when you saw the way number 3 was playing, when you couldn't even function at times offensively in the pass game. That was a major issue, and it was a huge reason why people were just really nervous heading into the playoffs, and that obviously showed in that first game in the wild card round. So I totally disagree with the assessment of this year. I think this year was a failure by the Hawks on almost every level.
Wow.
Well, when you look at 2020 kind of in a vacuum, of course, great season, 12-4, you win the division, and that's all well and good. I'm going to have to disagree with Softy, though. The fact, even if you win that Giants game and you're the number 1 seed and you get the bye, I still don't think they have a snowball's chance in hell of winning this conference. I think you look at the numbers over the last 4 years where they've won 1 playoff game, by the way. They're 9-13 against playoff teams in the regular season, 10-16 if you count the playoff games that they've been in. Pete Carroll, unless he has an elite defense, his offensive philosophy does not work consistently against the best teams in the NFL, because the best teams in the NFL, why are they so good? Their quarterback play, they throw the ball, they put up points. And Pete Carroll, A, can't stop them, and B, can't score against them with his philosophy. So I don't think they had any chance, and that's disappointing.
No, I don't think they had a chance to go to the Super Bowl, not against the teams. I mean, I don't think they would have beaten the Packers. I don't think they would have beaten even the Bucks at this point, those last two teams that we just saw in the NFC. Obviously, they had a hard time against the Rams. We were discussing yesterday the Rams and what they bring to the table defensively, I think almost makes it to where maybe Sean McVay doesn't feel that he has to do a whole heck of a lot offensively. And that still was enough against what I think was still, and I agree with you on this. I think both you and Puckett, Softy, when you guys were saying that you thought that the defense was basically not, it improved, but it was more so that they improved because of who they were playing versus just all of a sudden coming together and gelling. I'm with you on that, but I can't necessarily think that a 12-4 season. I mean, I get it. Once you become a perennial contender and you are in the playoffs for a decade and you've won a Super Bowl and you went back to another one, that anything short of getting to the Super Bowl is going to feel like a failure. But a 12-4 season, winning your division, the toughest division in football, I don't think you can look at as being a failure, in my opinion.
I guess to Softy's point, I mean, I think the standard, I think you've arrived as an organization, doesn't matter what sport it is, right? When the failure of the season or the success of the seasons in the postseason. And I think that's their, a benefit or a positive about this franchise is that they finally have arrived. I mean, we grew up in an era in which they weren't doing any of this stuff. And so I think they're in a point now where, yeah, I mean, 12-4 is a great record. I mean, you're right, Bucky. I mean, it is. There's nothing to sneeze at. To call it exceptional or great is probably, I think, for this organization, I don't even think that they would probably say that. I don't think they would admit that because they are judged once they get in the postseason. I mean, I don't think you got to win the Super Bowl every time. At least that's not my expectation. My expectation is that they don't have to play in the Super Bowl or win it. They do got to get past the first weekend, and they've got to get themselves back into a championship weekend because they have a Hall of Fame quarterback. And I mean, you can't waste these years. You're never going to get these years back. I mean, in 10 years, we're going to be stuck with the next, Kelly Stauffer. No, that's not fun. I watched that. That sucked.
Hey, first of all, Kelly Stauffer was a hell of a guy. Let's not slander his name, at least not.
Okay, Dan McGuire.
Okay, yeah, Dan McGuire's fine. Dan McGuire was an a-hole. Kelly Stauffer does not deserve any of that. What you're talking about?
That's fair point.
I mean, what Bucky's talking about, the best division in football. I mean, I don't think it was the best division in football when it was all said and done. I mean, the Cardinals turned out to be a bit of a fraud. The Niners weren't any good. AFC North had 3 playoff teams, for God's sakes, in Pittsburgh, Baltimore, and Cleveland. So I don't know, man. I mean, look, is 12-4 a great great record? Yes, but the only reason why you're excited about 12-4 is because you think that you are now in position, because of your 12-4 record, to make a run come playoff time, which they did not do. So I look at 2020 as a D almost, as almost a failure on every. I mean, dude, what are we judging this franchise by now, guys? I mean, as Bucket said, standards have changed. This ain't 1988 anymore. We're not 15 years old. We're all old men. I mean, look at you, Chuck. Look at your hair. Look at Buck's face. Look at my hair. Look at Bucky. Look at Slick. We're not kids anymore. It's time to change the attitude about what is expected from this franchise every year.
I think my hair is pretty good, man.
You look great.
I appreciate that.
Rest of it was terrible.
What about your flabby ass, Mahler? How about that?
I got a big, huge flabby ass. Yeah, right there. You like that, right?
All right. Well, we're just getting started. We got a lot of time here together. I mean, I hear your commentary, and now I think, Pete Carroll, is he the right guy for this job anymore? His coaching staff going forward has made some adjustments, a big one at offensive coordinator. So we'll dive into the coaching staff, and we'll start right at the top with Pete when we come back. It is our special show, State of Seattle Seahawks Football. We've got Softy here, we've got Puck, we've got Bucky, we've got Slickhawk. We'll continue the conversation next on Sports Radio 950 KJR.
$1,000 in your hand. Win $1,000 now. Text the word PAY, P-A-Y, to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's PAY to 200-200.
All right, so this is the exciting part of the show where we're going to get to see people, their comments, and see what they're looking at. You guys can take your time out if you want. That's fine. You can go grab a drink. Bucky, you can go for a quick swim. I see the water's coming up. But while they're on commercial on the radio, and our commercial breaks are always only like 2 or 3 minutes long, we can continue the conversation here on the Twitter, the Facebook, and the YouTube, which I thought would be kind of fun. And Nick jumped in here, and he has some commentary for us. What do you think?
Totally agree. I'm not sure what we can get for the guy at this point now.
Where are we going to trade at Slickhawk? For what? What does Nick want to trade him for?
Send me to the Chargers or somewhere sunny at least, please.
The problem is when you announce to the public that you are looking to trade somebody, what you get in return diminishes greatly. So we should have kept this in-house. But now everybody knows that we're just going to cut the guy eventually. So
God.
Do we have to throw in somebody? Does Nick want us to throw in somebody too to make the package better?
Yeah. How about a host to be named later? Who should that guy be?
I'm not sure how much more you can sweeten this deal.
Do we have anybody left?
Bucky, the river. We're starting to see some light back there.
What a view!
It does look amazing.
Great view. Jeff, what you don't know is that Bucky actually is down by the river. Andy lives in a van. Bucky, can you move your camera around so people can see the van that you live in down by the river as well?
No, I can't. My family is sleeping in the van right now, Softy. I can't wake up the family. Leave them alone. Yep, I am in a van down by a river.
Do you get steel? Does steelhead go through there?
Not anymore. No, ever since they dredged the Snoqualmie River, the steelhead don't get up here anymore. I mean, we're up above Snoqualmie Falls, so they had to make a big roundabout to go all the way, Columbia and up through a bunch of tributaries. I mean, I can just throw a line in here. I got my rod right over there. I could just throw a line and catch a cutthroat.
Yeah. Do it now. Drop a line in now.
Yeah. Well, then I'd have to get out from underneath my electric blanket. That doesn't sound fun. It's chilly. Can you see my breath?
I do not.
Probably not. I got it far away. But
I see your stems.
Oh
my God!
Oh yeah.
Bucky, would you like to pitch us on some good things we should buy for our wives right now?
Well, fellas, you don't want to be in the doghouse this Valentine's Day. You want to stay at the doghouse? Get us some roses. These are premium head roses.
Yeah, 20% bigger heads now. Come on,
20% bigger head. Because after all, who doesn't want premium head?
Whoa. It's a family show. Knock it off.
Hey, I'm talking about roses, guy.
7:20 in the morning.
Before school, relax.
Oh, look at James. James can't stand the division champ shirt.
Hater. Hey, I'm going to break. They did win the division. Okay.
Is that a 2020 division champion? Sure. Okay, that's terrible. That's even worse than your Oregon Pac-12 championship shirt.
Nothing's better than my Oregon Pac-12 championship.
God.
But I think I can still wear my 1988 AFC division champion shirt.
Absolutely wrong with that.
James.
Hell yeah, you can. Hell yeah.
12-4 then too, right?
They won the damn division at 8-8. Or maybe it's 12-4. I can't remember.
Terrible.
James has his division champs. I've got my conference champs. I don't know which one is higher up the hierarchy, but that's cool, James. That's cool. Good for you, Jimmy.
Hey, Rich wants to trade
Way to
Bobby
be.
Wagner.
Well, you know what? We all have.
What the hell are you
ideas about
gonna
how
get
to
for
improve
Bobby
this team.
Wagner? I mean, who's honestly?
How old
what
is
value
he?
does he have? I don't know. 30, what? 32?
You might get a one.
A first round pick for Bobby Wagner? No, come on. No way.
He's an all-pro.
The fun thing is that by being here on the stream during the commercial breaks, people actually get to hear the even more unfiltered, stupid things that Slick says.
Hey, I don't think we need to say
might.
his opinion is stupid.
I said you might get a one. I said that's the max value. I mean, he is an all-pro. That means he's the best linebacker in football.
Can we point out, thank you, hates_sleeves. My hair
content.
does look terrific at 7 a.m. Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you.
do you guys see the comments too? I wasn't sure if you can see them.
We see everything. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, look at that.
I woke
I
up
hate-
at 6
I
a.m.
hate
just to do my
sleeves, too,
hair.
As a matter of fact, I hate clothes, to be honest with you. So
Get
Oh,
naked.
Softy's gonna get naked before the end of the day. I'm sorry.
The other Jason Puckett's hair looks way better. That is a lot of words.
Holy
too many words. Never mind.
Rex Strong just wrote us a book.
Break it up, buddy.
120 character limit, Rex. What do you think
Jeez,
this
Rex, blah, 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 blah. Trade Slick.
Chuck has to be able to read these things.
is? Why is
I
Will
can't.
Johnson using a profile picture of The Rock on his Facebook page?
I thought the same thing. That's kind
Will
of
Dwayne Johnson.
That's a good-looking guy right there. Hey, Will.
yeah, we should. He's making us all look bad. I'm sorry. We'll take it down.
Hey, what?
I love this one.
You're not getting a 1 for Wagner.
This looks like the police lineup after a food truck robbery. Absolutely.
So true.
Yeah. This is like
well
Reservoir
done.
Dogs. This is the Reservoir
Who's
Dogs
Mr.
lineup.
Pink?
Give me the keys.
That is well done.
Oh, we have an insider.
Oh,
Shane
Shane
Waldron.
Waldron. Waldy Ball.
Sleeves.
Yeah.
8 sleeves. How's the 8 crop?
Yeah. Waldy Ball. Waldy's
All right.
probably in the 8 crop right now.
Hey,
Wonderful.
he can tell us which is better, the A crop or the Diablo 2. Because
I've
say
never heard of
Diablo.
either one of those places. Can you explain?
I think
Acropolis is better.
You've
Diablo
never
2.
heard of the A crop, Softy?
No, I never have. Ever.
It's
A
a
strip
steak.
joint that you can get a steak out. A steak.
didn't know
You
that.
sit right
Yeah.
front row seat.
Man.
Beef
Never heard of that.
galore.
Not
Yeah.
just a steak, a great steak.
Is that where
and
you get your premium head roses?
like under
Oh,
10 bucks?
no.
No, but
That's
so
gifting dudes.
but Softy doesn't even know the best part about it. So the
I don't
best
know anything
part,
about this
okay,
stuff.
well,
This
the
is
best
way
part
over
about
my
it-
head. Never heard of
the
any of
best
it.
part about it on kitty corner to the first stage, the front stage, right,
Uh-huh.
is a salad bar.
Oh, jeez.
Rocky's getting uncomfortable.
A real but a salad bar. I'm not joking. A salad bar.
Even in COVID, you can still get a salad there?
Well, of course not. Come on, Softy. What kind of
Everything's to
life
go.
are you living in right now? Come on.
You got to get it on Postmates.
They do have
You can
Postmates.
Eat something?
You can take the entertainment and a salad to go?
Yeah.
All right, so we have about 30 seconds left here, and everyone's going to get to see a real window into
Screw
what goes
you,
on.
Shocking.
Guys, let's try to break on time
Hey,
this time. What do you say?
Stop it.
What?
No?
Everybody had to have their
It's
say on the
overrated.
first topic.
There's no clocks in here.
One
This is like
Oh,
Vegas,
boy.
baby.
last one. Oh, hang on.
What happened to the comments? Yeah. I never heard of it.
Oh, you are.
All right, so
missing
keep
out.
those comments coming. We'll keep them rolling here during the next commercial break. But we're going to try to come back here and do some more fantastic radio. So here it comes in 3, 2, 1.
Now back to the state of Seattle football on your home for the 12th man in the NFL. Seattle's Sports Radio 950 KJR.
Check it back in the mornings. We are stepping aside for the State of Seattle Football Specialty Show, where I am shelving my opinions and leaving them to the experts. Jason Puckett, Bucky Jacobson, Matt Mikolas, David Softy Mahler. We have all assembled this morning to talk some Seahawks football and just get a sense of where the organization sits right now after a year in which they were ousted from the first round of the playoffs. We want to give a special thanks to our sponsors throughout the football season all year long, including car toys that sponsored many things here, including Coach Holmgren's segment with us. And you're actually going to get to hear from Coach Holmgren a little bit later on today. So thank you, Car Toys, for all that you've done for us. Car toys. Who doesn't want a car toy? So here we go. We get back into the conversation. You can see here the sun is rising on Bucky Jacobson's river. That's not a green screen that he's in front of. That is raw ass nature right there that Bucky is in front of. And Bucky, I'm going to start with you in this segment because we just talked about a disappointing end to this past season. And you heard three Seahawk fans, diehard Seahawk fans, lifelong Seahawk fans talking about Pete Carroll, you know, and in not so flattering terms. As somebody who roots for the lowly Denver Broncos,
hey.
Your reaction to hearing Seahawks fans not happy with Pete Carroll, because it's not just these three disappointed with a 12-4 season. An entire there are a lot of people in this fan base that feel that maybe the game is starting to get away from Pete Carroll. Your reaction to that?
Spoiled little brats don't usually know they're spoiled little brats. That's one thing that I know for sure. I don't really mean that it's spoiled, but really for the last decade, I mean, Puck, I mean, Softy, you guys all know that what this is. So like everybody that is a lifelong Seahawks fan that's as old as you guys are, you guys know what it was like for the majority of this franchise's history. And now all of a sudden it changes. And Softy, I get what you're saying, that where they're at now, the standard is higher. And so all of a sudden you have to think about it as being higher. Well, yeah. I agree with that. You want more than just being competitive. That's what it was for a long time during the beginning when we were all growing up. You guys were just hoping you were competitive with the Broncos. Okay. Then you all of a sudden became competitive. Right. I'm sorry, I got to throw in a couple jabs there. I got to throw in a couple, but I mean, all of a sudden, you guys are on top of the heap, right? You guys you're contending division champs just about every single year. You're in the playoffs just about every single year. You went to a couple Super Bowls, won a Super Bowl. Next thing you know, I can't read it. I can't read what you're putting up there, Puck.
Did we compete on that day? How competitive were we, man?
Yeah, you're more than competing. Team of destiny. You were bound.
I can't believe what I'm hearing out of you.
Bottom line is, if you guys can't recognize how lucky you are, I mean, what other fan bases besides the Patriots? I mean, what other fan base besides that has had a better run for the last decade when Pete Carroll's been here? And for people, I'm not saying that he doesn't need to evolve. Last segment, we were talking about where the season fell apart. To me, it fell apart because they wanted to fix the defense, and all of a sudden they didn't make any adjustments on offense. And next thing you know, the defense has figured out, okay, they want to run the ball a couple times and then take a shot downfield. We're going to stop that from happening. And now all of a sudden the defense became stagnant. If there's anything that I've noticed in doing this for 3 years and for my lifetime of watching Seahawks football right now is the golden age of Seahawks football. I don't think you're at the end of it, but you're definitely past the halfway point, I would say. And so, yeah, it gets to where you start thinking, we got to do more than just get to the playoffs. I agree where that can feel like it's less than what you wanted, but to think of it as a failed season, you got to get into the dance first. And you get a home playoff game, which didn't matter this year with no fans, but you get a home playoff game, you have a chance to advance as far as you want to advance. And all of a sudden, one game, if they would have beaten the Rams, then all of a sudden we think that this game would have been a success, or this season would have been a success?
What good is a division championship or a playoff berth or whatever it is for however many years if you don't have a legitimate chance at winning a Super Bowl? I mean, and you say they had a chance, and I just disagree based on what I've seen these last 4 years. And I say the number over and over again, 9-13, because that's legit. To beat the good teams in this league consistently, that's something that teams like the Chiefs do. The Patriots did it for years. And so you have these teams, you got to make the playoffs first, obviously, to do that. But, am I thrilled that we're not cellar dwellers anymore here in Seattle? Sure, that's great. But I have bigger aspirations. I want more Super Bowl titles. I want to be competitive for that next step. And they haven't been there in this last half a decade.
Let me just explain something to you. So first of all, I see Bucky talking, but I don't really hear anything coming out of his mouth, to be totally honest with you. If there's anybody here that should have high expectations of their football team, it's him. You know how many times the Broncos have been to a Super Bowl? 8. 8 times. That's 5 more than us, for crying out loud. So if anybody should know about high expectations, it should be that guy. Look, man, when I was on my weight loss journey with 30-10 weight loss for life, I started off with a double D cup, okay? Then I went to a C. Then I went to a B. And I was striving to get to an A, and I finally made it. You always want more in life, whatever you do. You ever look at your bank account and say, I'm good? You ever look at your kids and say, they're smart enough? You ever look at your wife and say, she's hot enough? No, you always want more out of life in every aspect of life. And guess who else wants more? Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson want more, for crying out loud. And by the way, Chuck, your question about Pete Carroll, is the game passing by? I don't know. And that's why I kind of like this hire in some ways of Shane Waldron, because it kind of goes against everything that he's all about. I mean, I think he's going to meddle. He's a soon-to-be 70-year-old guy that just hired a 41-year-old rookie offensive coordinator. I don't see any way, at least in the first few months of this project, that Pete Carroll allows Shane Waldron to go out on his own and do whatever the hell he wants with the offense. So I'm curious to see how much he's meddled, but there was a fear, I think, Chuck, a lot of people had, that he would just hire a guy that would run the ball 45 times a game, move on, be done with it. I don't think, if you want to necessarily go down that road, that this is the guy that you hire. So I think it's kind of a hybrid of some of those fears and also what we were kind of hoping for from an offensive coordinator. But I do think that this is a fork in the road moment for Pete Carroll. There are people asking the questions that you're asking. Has the game passed him by? Is he too set in his ways? Is he too stubborn? I think the next couple years will show us the answer to that question that you're talking about.
Well, as I was playing golf at Interbay the other day, and part of the Premier Network, and also finished some barbecue at Jack's Barbecue. I had some brisket right down there in Soto.
Did you learn that from a class, from one of the barbecuing classes that they offer?
Yeah, they have
on
a
the
barbecue
website?
class, jacksbbq.com. I was thinking about the future of Pete Carroll. I mean,
was that before or after you left Mike's Chili Parlor?
That was before I left Mike's Chili Parlor. Thank you. I forgot about that. And got some meat at Kashopo Meats, kashopomeats.com. Your meat for Seahawks and all Husky fans. I was thinking about, he's the great. I mean, is Pete Carroll like the greatest coach of all time? I would say no, because he has some flaws. But I think what he is, at least for what I've seen here, he's probably one of the greatest motivators I've ever seen. And I don't think I've ever seen a better motivator ever coaching sports, at least in this area, because he gets so much out of players. I think all I want as a fan is I want him, and I think he's a very good elite defensive coach. I do believe that as well. I just want him to marry those two things with an elite offensive play caller, because I think if he does that, the sky is the limit for this organization, and they will win another Super Bowl. And I think hopefully that with bringing Waldron, the thing I like about Shane Waldron is this, that he at least comes from a tree that we know about, that from an offensive system that we've seen before. But I do just want him to just get out of the way and let that guy call the offense and let the offense be what the offense can be. If he doesn't do that and continues to meddle, then I think we'll just continue to see what happens to them in the playoffs, because I mean, it just he gets in their way, and I just wish he would take a step back from that.
Well, the name of the game, guys, in my opinion, baseball obviously is different than football, but the name of the game in sports in general is adjustments, constantly making adjustments. But you have to always think about it as small adjustments. If all of a sudden I'm in an 0 for 10 slump, I don't go up there and start hitting left-handed. I don't go up there and all of a sudden incorporate some giant leg kick or do something drastically different. It's a tiny little adjustment. Next thing you know, you take a swing and you're back on track. I think that's kind of where they didn't make any adjustments this year, and that's on Pete Carroll to some extent. And I think the reason Schottenheimer's gone is because when they had that discussion of, okay, we needed to make some adjustments. We can't just keep taking shots downfield, even though it was ultra successful early in the year. We needed to get back to running the ball and get rid of that too high safety look, so that then you can take those shots. And they disagreed on how they were going to go about that. Slick, you've mentioned it a bunch of times. Chuck, I know you've mentioned it on our morning show, where you've talked about they didn't have any of that intermediate passing game. Well, I don't think you need to go all of a sudden into, well, that's just what we do all the time now, intermediate passing game. You just need to be able to sprinkle in different things. You watch Andy Reid. Andy Reid's not a young guy either, but he has wrinkles and different things, and then it's sprinkled in. They'll run the ball with a guy that doesn't run. I mean, Hilaire is good, really good, but he's not a guy. I would take Chris Carson over Hilaire right now. I mean, maybe not with the tread left on the tires, but you get what I'm saying. The way he runs, you have all the weapons to do all of the things that an offense like Kansas City has. I mean, you have weapons with Lockett and DK. You have a running back. You have maybe not the line, but bottom line is they just don't make adjustments. If you're not going to make adjustments, and the league's going to constantly figure out week after week, these guys spend 18 hours a day studying film. They all of a sudden come in with a game plan. If they keep doing what they have been doing, we're going to shut that thing down. And they didn't do that. I don't think Pete Carroll is ultimately to blame or wholly to blame, but he most certainly has to take the lion's share because he's the king of the castle.
Yeah, well, I think that was definitely the flaw this past year, is not adjusting at all in the entire second half, and I do think it's what cost Schottenheimer his job. But Slick, I'll redirect to you on Waldron. I pointed out earlier this week, I think the key to his description as a coach is the quick passing game coordinator. I think that speaks to Pete Carroll trying to address the two things that frustrate him most, and that is Russell Wilson just getting sacked too frequently. Schottenheimer got him to stay in the pocket and stop taking 20-yard losses. I think the next stage in the evolution of Russell Wilson, the quarterback, is to stop finding him at the top of the league in sacks allowed, period. So getting rid of the football, accepting a 4-yard completion rather than looking for the 50-yard pass, I think that's why Shane Waldron's here. Your thoughts on Waldron as the choice as OC?
Well, they've been trying to find workarounds for an offensive line basically since 2013. Now, I know they've thrown draft picks at it and some money here and there, but that's been, in most cases, kind of largely misspent. And so whether you want to say that they haven't committed to the offensive line or they've just been misguided in how they did it, the offensive line has been one of the biggest issues consistently for this team since the Super Bowl year. And it was better this year, but still not good enough. So, yeah, this is another kind of patch, another way they can get around spending a whole lot of money that they probably don't have this offseason on fixing the offensive line. You get a Waldron in here who, look, he's going to get the ball out quicker, which is what the league is going to more. You look at the more elite quarterbacks in the league, they're getting the ball out fast. Brady, Roethlisberger to an extent, he's not as good as he was. Rodgers, these guys get the ball out quick. Russell Wilson obviously doesn't. He ends up holding the ball, and maybe he's not taking the big yardage sacks like we saw Josh Allen do last week, but he's definitely hanging on to the ball longer. And I think that's also scheme too, because, look, DK Metcalf had a point when he talked about, they run, they want to do play action and a deep shot. Most of the passes you see with Russ, he's waiting for something to develop downfield. The offensive line can't hold for that long and keep his shirt clean. And then you saw with the second safety they drop back, they're just not able to have those plays run successfully. So I think Waldron is going to bring in the short and intermediate pass game. I think he's going to get Russell Wilson out of the pocket and on the move, where he's one of the more comfortable quarterbacks in the league. So a lot of the things that you could take advantage of with Russell Wilson's skill set, I think he'll bring out. And I'm curious to see how much Pete really lets him kind of have the reins and do what he wants to do, because, Puckett makes a great point. I think it was Puckett. Yeah, if you have a defensive coach like Pete Carroll and that philosophy, and you allow a creative play caller to unleash and unlock everything that Russell Wilson has to offer, they should be a Super Bowl contender every year.
I think he also has to, just quickly, I mean, some of this has, and no one's given him a pass, I don't think, in here, but some of this has to be on Wilson as well. I mean, he's got to get rid of the ball sometimes. I think it's not just scheme sometimes. I mean, sometimes that's on him, where he holds on. He's not 25 anymore. He can't run around and scramble like he used to. And I think there's plenty of times that when we watch games, whether you see the whole field or you see a replay of it, or you hear Hugh talk about it afterwards, that he doesn't get the ball sometimes to the right guy. He doesn't get out of his hands quick enough. I mean, the great ones who aren't as mobile as him don't get sacked as much because they know exactly where to go, or they throw it away, or they find the hot guy. So that's another area he needs to get better at. But we've been talking about that, it seems like, for the last few years.
Well, first of all, I echo what Matt says. A great point by Puck. And to reward you, I will get you either a Taco Time gift card or a Lakeland Village gift card. Your choice. Off the air.
I'll take both.
He's exactly right about Russell Wilson running into sacks. I mean, look, when you got a potted plant in Jared Goff, in some ways it's easier to protect the quarterback because he's just living in the pocket. He's not taking off. He's not running into sacks the way Russell Wilson did. I mean, I know that PFF's metrics aren't the end-all be-all, but, they had the Rams with a pretty damn good offensive line last year, especially in the pass blocking perspective of that. So I agree with Matt. I mean, people tend to forget that in 2013, talk all you want about Marshawn, the LOB, Bobby Wagner, yada, yada, yada. They had the greatest rotation of defensive linemen I've ever seen in team history, and they had the highest paid offensive line in the NFL in 2013. This is still in a lot of ways a line of scrimmage game, and the Hawks in a lot of ways have failed at that. I mean, all the resources they've had to use on the defensive line, whether free agency, draft picks, trading for guys like Carlos Dunlap, they got to find some consistency there on that defensive line and be young. I'm hoping that this group they have now with guys like Taylor and Robinson, maybe Jordan Brooks as a pass rusher can play a role at some point in time down the road for them. But until they find a way to start dominating up front, I just don't feel like this team can do what they want to do and go where they want to go.
It's the State of Seattle Football Show. We brought all the best minds in Seattle together. We've got Jason Puckett, Matt Mikolas, David Softy Mahler, Bucky Jacobson. Let's narrow in on our quarterback, Russell Wilson. He wants to be the greatest that's ever played the game. Tom Brady's going to his 10th Super Bowl this year. He's got a lot of catching up to do. We'll talk about number 3 next on Sports Radio 950 KJR.
The bench is delirious. The crowd with arms in the air.
Your exclusive home for
Super Bowl 55.
Seattle Sports Radio 950 KJR.
Plug in. This report.
All right. Well, I guess we only made it through one fun break, and now everyone's leaving. A little disappointed, but I understand.
Is Slick eating Slick, is that a McFlurry at 7:30 in the morning?
I don't think Slick's doing many McFlurries these days, Softy.
No,
what is that?
It's a fruit yogurt parfait with granola.
Oh, that's so good.
Blueberries and peaches and strawberries made for by my lovely wife.
Peaches and cream.
There you go.
Bucky looks like Ragnar Lothbrok from Vikings, like he's in his throne room. We should all be paying homage.
You have complimented him more than you even know by saying that.
Looks good, man.
I'm
I feel like you should be bowing down.
I'll go get my sword from inside and
I got a sword behind me. I got a samurai sword. I'm going to take it out. Anybody gets out of hand?
No samurai sword. This is a real sword.
Yeah.
Like a sword. I don't even know what the term is.
You got to get you like the Game of Thrones
samurai sword.
Have you sit on that bad boy? Because you need a throne, man. That is awesome.
The Iron Throne.
Yeah, I'm down.
The Iron Throne. Yeah,
do you guys actually think this is a problem? Nick is the one of millions of people to say this. He's more worried about his post-football playing days and his non-football stuff than anything else.
Well, I know Nick. I'm friends with Nick, and Nick is a clown. So
Nick is a great man.
That's
because
the way you treat our P1 Slick. Holy
he's fishing
cow,
on a
man.
river and he's got a beard.
You know what? I know. Guess what? You're a clown. How's that sound? I'm gonna have Nick's back for a second here.
Hey, I think he's got too much stuff going on. I do personally believe that. Yeah.
Doesn't Tom Brady have a ton of stuff going on?
I don't think Russell has too much going on.
No, man.
I think
podcasts.
Listen, I just think
thinking about the team.
I just think when you're doing I think he stretches himself too thin during the season. I mean, look at the hours these guys probably put in. He's probably at the facility at what? I don't know.
I think
7, and then he gets home. He gets home at what time? 7. Yeah. I mean, he's got. I mean, of anyone on who's got a family. I mean, he's got kids. I mean, you got to see your kids. I mean, when he says no time to sleep, like I don't think he sleeps. I think he sleeps like 4 hours a night.
I don't think that's not good. I think you're right. He gets home at 7 o'clock. He puts his PJs on, has his warm milk, and goes to bed by 8 o'clock.
There's no way he does that. No way in hell he's doing that.
He's married to Sierra. He better not be doing that.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: would you trade Russell Wilson for Deshaun Watson right now?
No, and it shouldn't even be a question.
Yes, I would. But they wouldn't do it.
Well, because you want the Seahawks to fail because you're a Broncos fan. So, of course.
No, I don't even dislike the Seahawks anymore. I'm over the time that you guys killed us in the Super Bowl.
Murder.
We've already won a Super Bowl.
What happened again?
Destroyed.
Your mic broke up. What happened in that game?
We got killed. We got killed. I don't know. Yeah, it was a doozy. I remember the first time I won a Super Bowl, and then or my team did.
I was going to say,
I remember going back to back. Did you guys?
You're like Deion Sanders of the West.
Dual sport athlete.
Oh boy,
you're the white Deion Sanders. I won a baseball
thing to it on this panel.
In a Super Bowl. I I like it.
No, I wouldn't trade him, but I think probably next year, the year, 2 years. No. Yeah, 2 years from now, do it. No, do you draft one next year? 2 years?
Well, remember the story about the rumor that they were gonna Schneider wanted to draft Mahomes.
Yeah, I think you gotta look.
Yeah,
we talk next year, probably 2 years.
I would wish they would have drafted Mahomes.
I wish they would have drafted Mahomes.
Of course, I wish they would have drafted Mahomes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The answer is yes. The greatest player in the NFL who's probably got about 10 more years left.
But the problem with that is, I don't think he'd be Mahomes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, nobody
he's not Mahomes like he is Mahomes there.
Yeah. How about this? Yeah. If the Seahawks hadn't drafted Kristen Michael and they took Travis Kelce, who went right behind Kristen Michael, would he be Travis Kelce in Seattle?
Probably
no. Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Graham wasn't Jimmy Graham in Seattle. So
here's the problem with that attitude, though. If you tell me that he wouldn't be Mahomes,
Franco Harris wasn't Franco Harris.
Russell Wilson may be better off somewhere else. Russell Wilson's been great in Seattle, but if he was playing for a different team, a place like the Chiefs and Andy Reid, Russell Wilson would be cooking up everything, throwing for 6 touchdowns a year.
Russell Wilson he'd be a more. Don't waste your good stuff during the commercial breaks.
He'd be a more successful quarterback somewhere else. I think we all recognize that.
Rocky 3, I got a lot of mo, baby. You got a lot of mo. Let's go.
Oh boy!
Come on, no running to this one. Wilson will never be an MVP. Normally, he takes Seattle to a Super Bowl.
He's already done it twice.
Ladder. The MVP, yeah. I mean, how do you argue with that? The guy's been in the league for what, 8 years now? Is that right? 8 years, 9 years. He's never had a vote. So yeah, that's not exactly going out on a limb there, pal. Who's this divish guy?
Yeah, I don't know.
Isn't he in prison?
He's prying though. He's prying into my.
I didn't know that he had a kid.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. He probably has a lot of kids he doesn't know about, is my guess. There are a lot of women walking around in Montana.
I heard he's not allowed to be around kids. Is that still in effect, or is that
still true? Oh boy.
Wilson never showed up for the playoff game. Yeah, he was never there.
Stayed on the bus.
The franchise internet will be on this afternoon.
Why wasn't he on? Why wasn't he on in the morning? I mean, he gets up at 3:30.
He refused to come on with you.
The TV star. He's on Q13 Fox.
Yeah, he's not on Q13. Why is he on Q13?
Doing TV.
I'll go to Q13 right now. It'll be that crazy weather girl or the traffic girl. What's her name?
Looks like a blonde.
MJ McDermott. Hey, the traffic's going really crazy today.
Here we go, fellas.
Now back to the state of Seattle football on your home for the 12th man in the NFL. Seattle's Sports Radio 950 KJR.
Specialty shows. Oh, I love them. And we got half the crew here at KJR on with us here this morning to discuss the state of Seattle Seahawks football. Jason Puckett, Matt Mikolas, David Softy Mahler, and Bucky Jacobson all with you. My name is Chuck Powell. I'm guiding these goofballs through a 2-hour-long conversation about where the Seahawks are right now. We want to thank our sponsors. We want to use this time as well throughout the football season. Paramount Sports for being a great partner and supporter of ours and sponsoring Lee Sterling during the 2020 football season. You sick of that guy yet, Softy?
Not this year, baby. Cha-ching. He's on fire. And by the way, what's the saying about time flies when you're having fun? Something like that. I just figured out why this feels like it's going so slow. So,
all right. Well, speed us up here. Russell Wilson. Face of the franchise. How are we feeling about Russell Wilson right now, age 32, the quarterback for the Seahawks? Does he deserve some blame in this blame pie that we've been shelling out?
I think he absolutely deserves blame. Yeah, he didn't play great in the second half of the year. He had a horrible second half of the season. He's making $35 million. I mean, when you're making $35 million a year and the team counts on you as much as they are, you can't have an off second half like that. You just can't. I mean, it's not practical to expect him to have an all-star MVP type game every single week. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a bigger problem than people realize, as a matter of fact, is Russell Wilson's salary. So even if he plays great, they still have an issue with his contract and his salary. And you mentioned it going into the break, Chuck, that, Russell Wilson wants to be the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL. Well, first of all, unless he wins like 6 more titles in the next decade and ties Tom Brady, that's likely not going to happen. But can he get close? Can he be up in the top 5? Can he get where Elway, Montana, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, guys like that are? And I just think to do that, he's going to have to find a way to win a second championship at minimum. And the odds of doing that, unless he restructures his deal, are exponentially more difficult. I mean, I was reading, a column on the internet the other day that said that Tom Brady gave up $60 million in salary when he was in New England, and he could have made that money somewhere else. And partly because of that, the Patriots won a boatload of championships. So I just think it puts a lot of stress on your front office. For example, when you're paying Russell Wilson $35 million a year, you can't afford to piss away $7 million on Greg Olsen and Luke Jokel in 2 of the last 3 years. You can't make mistakes like that, right? You want to have a guy making 15, 20 million. Maybe it gets a little more stress, relief, and you can make mistakes, but you're giving up draft picks. You're throwing away money, and your quarterback's making $35 million a season. So under this current climate, yeah, he's got to be a freaking stud almost every single week.
I like your second point better than I like your first point, Softy.
Because it's not awesome, by the way. I'll make it again if anybody forgot. Go ahead.
Marginal at best. It's not up to Russell Wilson to manage the Seahawks cap.
I'm saying it is.
I mean, John Schneider, he just got this massive extension, right? It's up to him. He's got to draft better. He has to. And now I like this last year's draft, but he has to continue to draft well. They have to use the resources that they have. That's the price you pay. I think the Seahawks are in a better situation, by the way, than a lot of quarterback situations in terms of what you're getting out of your quarterback versus their cap dollar figure, because these deals are getting more and more, and they're going higher and higher. Dak Prescott's going to, he's the next one, right? So, but the Seahawks are one of very few teams that are getting the level of quality for what they're paying or exceeding that level. So I think it's a net positive for the Seahawks, even though it's $35 million. Yeah. I think a $35 million that the Seahawks are paying, they're getting a lot more out of another team that's going to pay 34, 35, 36 million, whatever it is, and what they're getting out of their quarterback.
Chuck, let me just make one more follow-up on that, because I agree with Matt. It's not Russell Wilson's job to manage a salary cap. But on one breath, you can't tell me if you're Russell Wilson that you want to be the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL, and then on the other breath, suck every dime out of the Seahawk front office. I mean, at some point, you have to decide, what do you want to be? And if you truly want to be the greatest quarterback of all time, if that truly is your goal, and if you truly, above anything else, want to win another title, giving the Seahawks a break and giving them some salary cap relief will help that cause exponentially. So it really just in the end is a value play, right? It's what does Russell Wilson really want? Does he really desperately, with every fiber of his being, want to win a second championship? Or does he really kind of want to win a second championship and on top of that make as much money as humanly possible so when his career's over, he can open a chain of movie theaters and restaurants? What is he looking to do? Because if he wants the championship more than anything else, giving them a break will help that cause immensely.
Russell Wilson's 2020 cap figure is only $6 million more than Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's in the Super Bowl right now.
Tom Brady's won 6 titles.
I'm just saying, Tom Brady this year.
Tom Brady should be making more money than Russell Wilson.
Tom Brady has also only taken up 12.6% of the salary cap this year, Slick. He's making $25 million. What would you do with an extra $8 or $9 million if you were the
$6 million? Russell Wilson has a $31 million cap hit for 2020.
So it's $6 million. I mean, whatever. I mean, it's a break. Dude, don't compare Russell. Don't compare and tell me that Russell Wilson can get away with doing what Tom Brady's done. Tom Brady has won 6 championships and he's been to 10 Super Bowls. He's not worried about his legacy.
All I'm saying is you can build a team around a quarterback that has a large salary cap figure.
Not if you want to be the best of all time. You can't do it with a guy that's making $35+ million a year. There's a reason that Patrick Mahomes, that the Chiefs decided to do the deal that they did with him, and it's genius on Patrick Mahomes' side and on their side. The way that Patrick Mahomes, we would talk about during the break, the best quarterback for sure right now, as far as just a guy that you would want captaining your team. He's making $25 million a year right now. Well, all of a sudden, that's $10 million that you get to spend on somebody else. If you get to disperse that across everywhere else, that is why Tom Brady, I mean, it's maybe not the only reason. Tom Brady's a great quarterback. Belichick is great. They had a lot of good players. But that part right there, they had a lot of good players that they could shift in and out and get rid of this guy, bring in another guy. That's part of the reason why they went to so many Super Bowls and won so many Super Bowls. That is a huge reason, is because Tom Brady said, I don't need to make the most money out of every quarterback. I would rather all the extra money I make in endorsements because I have 6 rings on my fingers.
Buck, be smart.
Made a hell of a lot more than he took in this deal, by the way.
Buck, we're up against the break, so be smart, but be quick about it. Say something.
Well, I mean, I think that's my wife says that. I think there's a little bit of both. I mean, listen, everyone wants to make as much money as they possibly can. But he also has to realize how much is too much. And then at the same time, so he does have, if he wants to win more consistently, he should take less. At the same time, the front office has to do a better job building the team. They know what they're at. And they have failed in that department the last few years of building and drafting younger talent.
All right, coming up next, the interesting offseason, and I think maybe the most fascinating topic, the one that we might bring up more than any other topic, is where to go with Jamal Adams. We have assembled the brightest minds in Seattle to talk Seahawks football for 3 hours this morning, and then again later on this afternoon. We're calling it the State of Seattle Seahawks Football, and we will continue next on Sports Radio 950 KJR.
The bench is delirious. The crowd with arms in the air.
Your exclusive home for
Super Bowl 55.
Seattle Sports Radio 950 KJR.
The Patrick Mahomes deal is unbelievable. I talked to his dad, and he's talking about, you never know when you're going to have a Alex Smith type injury, right? That could potentially end your career. So he wanted to get a ton of guaranteed money, but he did it in a way where the cap hit isn't crazy right up front. So they have a chance right now to still be able to sign Kelsey and do the big things they're doing to make sure that this team's dialed in to go for a second straight Super Bowl. And then all of a sudden the cap starts going up to 31, 42, 45. All of a sudden towards the end, at one point he has a $60 million cap hit. They're not going to be paying him that much at that point in time. They'll either trade him or they'll release him, or I'll imagine what he's probably going to do is he'll restructure his deal, because now all of a sudden, if he's 6 years into the league and has $180 million in the bank, and he's like, yeah, I got 2 Super Bowls or I got 3 Super Bowls. If I really am trying to chase down Tom Brady, I don't need to. What's the difference whether I have $300 million in the bank or $250 million in the bank at the end of my career?
$50 million.
He won't care.
Bucky, do you know Pat Mahomes, by the way?
Yeah.
You should get him on your show. You should put him on.
I had him on last year. I've talked to him this year, and we're trying to see. He wants me to go through the Chiefs. I had him on last year, and I just texted him on my own, and he told me that the Chiefs weren't real happy that we didn't go through the Chiefs for it.
Wait. His dad? To put his dad on the air?
Yeah.
Why the hell would he have to go through the Chiefs to get his dad?
That's what the Chiefs want him to do.
I guess when you're paying a guy $500 million, you say, okay.
Yeah.
Softy just goes right. Softy just goes right to the dads.
Right to the dad, baby. Right to the dad. Sometimes through the mom, but right to the dad.
He kind of got in trouble, I guess.
We haven't had a dad on the air in a long time.
You know what? You have not had a dad on.
We had on there. We used to have Scott Locker on all the time.
He was the best.
We used to have Lincecum's dad on all the time.
Scott Locker was a couple of pops.
It's been a while since we've had a dad on the air, man. Yeah. Buck, I'll put you on the air, and that'll satisfy my dad fetish.
I'm in. Yeah, Lincecum's dad was a good one.
Putting Owen's dad on the air. Owen's dad.
Oh,
man.
Thanks, David. That's nice of him.
David,
David.
Don't patronize us, David.
Yeah.
Oh,
what are you trying to do, David?
Wonder if David knows Mark Pope. My greatest claim to fame, playing Bellevue Boys Club House League basketball against Mark Pope. I dominated his ass.
Red Bull or Greenies? What are you drinking?
You want Red Bull or Greenies?
What are you drinking?
Me, coffee and Kahlua.
Oh, I don't really. I didn't think you were a coffee drinker.
Coffee. Me, I gotta have my coffee.
But he is.
Stats don't mean crap. It's all about the rings, baby.
Dollar bill, y'all.
Yeah. Has Wilson restructured his deal one time since he's been here at any point?
Yeah, didn't he do it
once
for Dwayne Brown?
Yeah,
but that was just moving money around. That wasn't a pay cut. Yeah.
Right. No, not a pay cut.
How big of a hero would he be if he came out and said, you know what? We can't win with me making this kind of money. I'm married to a freaking pop star. I got plenty of cash. Let's redo the deal. Give me a 5-year, $100 million deal, and let's go. Dude.
Yep.
But it's about he won't do it because it's about, just people in general equate money with status.
Yeah. Well, then don't tell me that you want to be the greatest of all time.
Yep.
And status is important to him.
Can't be the greatest of all time.
He took a
wants to
lot
go
less than he could
bracket.
have. Hold on, he could have held the
He couldn't
Seahawks
have
to the
taken
fire.
more. He was the top paid quarterback in the league. What are you talking about?
He could have made upwards of $45 million a year. He also could have, by the way, he could have just
pay him
gone
$45 million.
Is that Canadian League money or is that American money?
Come
What are
on.
you talking about?
He
He was
could
the
have
highest paid player.
He could have been mayor.
He could have gone the Kirk Cousins route. He could have done the franchise tag, made them tag him, go to the third time. The third one would have been $52 million. He could have gone that route.
I agree
He
with
didn't do that.
Divish, but he could fire his agent. Who's in charge? Mark Rodgers or Russell Wilson?
He didn't
Mark
give him a deal.
Rodgers works for Russell
like-
Divish.
I like
He
he
did give him a
gave
deal.
No, he did
I
not
love
give
the
him a
fact that
deal. You
Divish-
can't
I think
say that he
Divish
gave
is
him a
in bed
deal when
right
he
now,
signed a
watching this.
$35 million a year contract.
He,
That's not a
like I
deal.
said, he could have gone the franchise tag. He said, franchise tag me.
Yeah,
franchise
you know
tag
what?
me
No
again.
one would advise him to do that because he gets hurt and then he's done. Why would
Kirk
you do that?
Cousins-
Why would an
Kirk
agent?
Cousins-
Guaranteed
Kirk
money.
Cousins
did it.
wears a big helmet because he came out of the womb with a soft head.
Okay, I'm just saying
God.
that's done.
Is that
Yeah.
true?
Prescott do it.
His actual like skull tissue is softer than
Yes,
most
that's
folks?
why he wears a big helmet.
That's been proven.
Jeremy's asking the
No.
important question.
Dak did it too.
No, I thought he looked fat 2 years ago.
A little
We don't prefer chunky. We prefer husky.
bone.
big boned. Big
Yeah.
It's
boned.
like it's
Fluffy.
muscle on him, though, isn't it? Like he's
Actually,
just,
that's not Russell Wilson you're seeing on your or Slickhawk. That's Russell Wilson you're looking at right there. That's him.
Russell Wilson's a type.
separations in the preparation, guys.
He did look a little bigger,
I thought he
I
actually
agree.
looked good this year. It was a couple years ago he looked fat.
but I think he's too bulky.
He's yoked. He
I
is
think
absolutely yoked.
He needs to be bulky because he's worried about getting murdered behind his offensive line.
Yeah, but
Remember
look
when
at
he was
Drake, like,
wearing that like flak jacket a couple years ago? Remember that?
Yep.
But it's
I-
like it's.
I've
go ahead.
seen him without his shirt off, and he is yoked. He looks like Puckett.
Bet you have.
Yoked.
Oh, he sat on Aaron Donald and broke like 3 of his ribs. What?
Are you
I don't
smoking some crack, Slick? Travis would like to know.
Sometimes.
Oh, hey.
Slick, have you ever smoked crack?
No, never.
All right, 20 seconds left. Say something funny.
You ever done coke? Mushrooms?
No.
PCP?
No.
It's called booger
Say
sugar.
this on the air. What are you doing?
You ever seen a grown man naked?
Are you riding the white pony, son?
You like gladiator movies?
10
I do.
seconds.
I love gladiator movies.
You ever stay around late after gym class?
Now back to the state of Seattle football on your home for the 12th man in the NFL. Seattle Sports Radio 950 KJR.
Chuck-a-Buck of the Mornings has been overtaken by hooligans, I say. Hooligans, right here on Sports Radio 950 KJR. This group was already accused of robbing a food truck early this morning, and I'm not going to say who is suspicious and who is not, but multiple suspects here in all of this. Welcome in. It is Chuck-a-Buck in the Mornings, but we are stepping aside for a specialty show, The State of Seattle Seahawks Football. So we have Jason Puckett here. We've got Matt Mikolas here. We got Bucky Jacobson here. We got David Softy Mahler, who will be hosting his own version of this a little bit later on this afternoon with a different cast of characters as we present to you just nothing nonstop Seahawks football, trying to figure out exactly where this franchise sits. And we also want to take this time to thank all of our sponsors throughout the course of the football season. Hammer and Nail. Thanks to Hammer and Nail for being a great partner and supporter of ours. Curtis's Hawk Beat was sponsored by Hammer and Nail all season long during the 2020 football campaign. Curtis Crabtree, of course, never heard of him. But Curtis Crabtree is who we are discussing there, our Seahawks reporter. All right, gentlemen, we got a lot of other ground to cover here this morning. Did you have a rubber ducky? Is that what I saw? Is that what you were squeezing?
What is
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that's to keep me focused, man. This is what I use to keep me focused. No, it's actually
Dudley
Dudley's toy.
focused?
Dudley just
Not
walked in.
working.
Come here, bud. Say hello. Come here. No. Want to see my better half?
Ducky, you're the one.
The most
And by the way,
distracting
Chuck,
thing in the world keeps
about
you
some-
focused.
How about some diversity over there at the household? I see a Christmas tree. Where's your menorah? Come on, man. Step up to the plate. Let's get
It's
some
in the
diversity.
other corner.
2021.
It's in the other corner. So we're going to keep this thing up all year long. Valentine's
Good.
Day, Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Flag Day, Christmas tree.
It's a celebration tree. I
It's
like
just
it.
A celebration tree. That's all it is.
All right.
All right. Well, let's get into Jamal Adams. And Slick, I think you're the guy to start with because you're going to provide a lot of different avenues to jump off of Jamal Adams with. And it's a monster. I tell you, you acquire him for a king's ransom of draft picks in the offseason. And then, sets a sack record. Gets named second team All-Pro, but we spent an awful lot of time this year discussing whether or not he even fits in the Seahawks defense, if his pass coverage is good enough to warrant him becoming the next highest paid safety in the National Football League. But the Seahawks may have to go there. Have they gone in too far with what they gave up for him to not pay him now, Slickhawk? What do you do with Jamal Adams?
Well, we just talked about Russell Wilson's cap charge and how it can affect the team. And so the team has to build other places. They have to get young and they have to get cheap. And the best way to do that is through the draft. You give up 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick for Jamal Adams. He comes in. And obviously, I think we would all say he played well. He was second-team All-Pro. He was a Pro Bowler, and he broke that sack record like you mentioned. So there are a lot of great attributes of Jamal Adams, and I love having him as a Seahawk. However, he is a strong safety, so I think his impact is limited. I think that a lot of the things that he did as far as the sacks and the blitzing and everything, maybe they could do by dialing up other things. I think that what you gave up for him and then what you would have to give up in the future monetarily in a deal, I just don't think you're getting the yield for that. In my opinion, you don't chase bad money with more bad money. I would not extend him. I would try to get what you can for him on the trade market this offseason while you can, because you can't spend
Softy to have a fit right now.
You can't go and spend $16-17 million a year on this safety. And when you already have salary cap issues to begin with, when you have, like we mentioned, the quarterback who's going to be making $35 million against the cap pretty soon, there's too much that you have to be able to do. You can't do. And by the way, not have any draft picks, no first round picks in the first this year or next year.
Softy disagrees, I think.
I just don't get it, man. I mean, you're talking about just throwing away 2 first-round draft picks and trading Jamal Adams for what? I mean, if the Seahawks are willing to give up 2 firsts for Jamal Adams and then move him a year later, what do you think they're going to get on the open market? Maybe a second-round pick, maybe a second and a third. Maybe if they're lucky, one of those first-round picks back at most. So I think they got no choice but to re-sign the guy. And what they should be doing is they should be finding a way to use him. And maybe that means moving the guy to linebacker, for crying out loud. If his best attribute is getting after the quarterback and his worst attribute is playing in pass coverage, then find a way. You just got done, Slick, last segment talking about the front office needs to draft better. They need to coach better, need to scheme better. They've got a guy in Jamal Adams who clearly can be an impact player. Find a way to use him. And if you give up 2 first-round draft picks for this guy and you move him a year later and you take a giant bath on that investment, that would be one of the biggest blunders of the Pete Carroll era, along with John Schneider. I just don't see him doing that. Budda Baker's making $14.5 million a year. That's probably what his agent's going to ask for. I do agree with Matt that they are in a little bit of trouble with him from a salary perspective, but hey, they made this bed. They asked for this, right? I mean, they were the ones that, went bananas and totally lost their marbles and gave up 2 first-round draft picks for Jamal Adams, which at the time I thought was the right deal. A little concerned about how much he needs to blitz to get those sacks. He blitzes more than any other DB in the NFL, so he's in the backfield more. So by default, he's going to have a lot of sacks. But look, this is not about paying Jamal Adams or trading Jamal Adams. This is about finding a way to get the best out of him, putting him in the proper position. And if Ken Norton is not the guy to get that done, then fire him and bring in somebody else, because dumping him would be a colossal embarrassment and a colossal gaffe by this team.
Yeah, I mean, I think you acquire talent, right? It's a talent game, and there is no debate in terms of what his talent is, and your team is better off with having Jamal Adams there on the football field. And listen, I mean, I understand your point, Slick, because he is going to be your most valuable trade commodity if you did want to move someone, would be Jamal Adams. But clearly, I mean, he's going to take a hit in terms of the value, what you're going to get in return, because some would argue you overpaid to go get him in the first place. Well, now another team who wanting to acquire him or you wanting to move him, well, you're not going to get as much in return as what you got. And then also on top of that, you still got to pay him. So a team's going to look at, well, we still got to pay the guy, and now you want what, 2 1s? Well, you're not going to get that. So, he's an all-pro talent. They've got to make it work with Jamal Adams. I don't think he's going to break the bank as much as he thinks he's going to break the bank. I don't think he's going to get the $20 million. I mean, I know he's got these visions of earning more money than what Budda Baker is going to earn because he looks at himself as not a safety. I just don't think that's going to happen for him, and I think he's going to learn that, but he's still going to make a lot of money. To Softy, you got to make it work with him. Do different things with him defensively. Be creative on that side of the ball. And then, he got better. I mean, we talk about this defensive improvement, right, in the last, 8 games. Whoever you want to give credit to on that one. You want to say the opponents or they just got better. Well, he was a part of that, right? Yeah, he was on that team. And so, I think you got to make it work with him. I like his attitude. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. He always had a bad reputation of a guy, a malcontent, but I liked his attitude and the way he played, and I thought the fire he showed on the field.
It's our State of Seattle football show here on Chuck and Buck in the Mornings, replacing Chuck and Buck in the Mornings. By the way, not just on radio, we are on YouTube, we are on Facebook, we are on, all different kind of social media sites, so you could actually see us. You could see Bucky's river, and I'm going to go out to the river to readjust the question about Jamal Adams. Bucky, you and I have discussed this in the past. To me, I think that there could be a really heavy, and maybe the Seahawks are like, it's a no-go there, but a guy coming off a record-setting sack season, his agent might say, hey, look, we don't get paid like a safety. We get paid like a pass rusher. We're going to get paid. We're not asking for $15 million a year. We're asking for $19 million a year. We're asking for $20 million a year. Our guy's a weapon. You can't even give him a position. You can't even label him a safety. He's just a defensive weapon to use. It's going to be, Pete, and I agree with Puck and I agree with Softy. I think they're married to him. It's just how crazy is this going to get? What are the demands going to be for him going forward? And where do you draw the line in the sand? Because he's not going to play this year without a new contract. I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's definitely going to get a new contract. I think the floor is Budda Baker. The floor is the best, the highest paid safety. I don't think he'll play for anything less, and understandably so. I mean, breaks records and whatnot. Now you broke those records because they blitz you all the time. You should have the most sacks as much as you are sent into the backfield, and he's a weapon. I think that he's a guy that you want on your team. But this does revert back to, if he all of a sudden just flat out is going to try to stand his ground and say, no, I want $18 million. I want to be paid more like a pass rusher than a safety. Well, sorry, bud, you are a safety. We'll pay you as high as any safety's ever been paid, but that's what you're going to have to settle for if you want to stay on this team. Otherwise, we're going to have to figure something else out. And I don't know that he kind of does have the leverage because they did give up so much for him. I don't think that they can really move on from him. I see where Slicks would hope that you could do that, because that does then all of a sudden it opens up the possibility of staying out of what we were just talking about with Russell Wilson. You end up marrying yourself financially to one person on the either side of the ball. And then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you have to fill in the gaps with less talented people. And it comes down to the playoffs. You want to win in the playoffs. You're only as strong as your weakest link.
Well, you're going to get some cap relief with Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright in the next few years. Those guys aren't going to be here forever. And obviously, if they do pay him $14-15 million, make him the highest paid safety in the history of the NFL, you got to look past the first year of the deal, right? Like, it may look like a boatload of money in year number 1. What about year number 2? What about year number 3 and beyond? So, Chuck, I agree with you. I think they're married to this guy. They've got no choice but to find a way to make it work. I also agree with you. There's no way he's showing up to camp in July without a brand new contract. But at some point, the offer is going to be the offer, right? Whatever the Hawks make. Guys, you know this front office. When have they ever been known to negotiate with players, especially in public, and cave to players? Go ask Cam Chancellor how that worked out. So they'll probably make him an offer. A 4 or 5 year deal for, upwards of, $13-14 million a year. Maybe he's the highest paid safety by a skosh. Maybe he's not. And that'll be their deal. Hell, if anything, they'll drop their deal. Go ask Clowney about that, for crying out loud, when he wanted to come back and they said, well, that deal's no longer available. It's like draft day. That deal's off the table. We live in a different world than we did 30 seconds ago. So I think that he'll have to take it. at some point in time because guess what? Nobody doesn't like getting paid. And Jamal Adams can throw the biggest fit he wants, but if it gets down to week 2, week 3 of the regular season, and he's missing out on what? $500,000, $600,000 a game, his ass is going to be in Seattle at some point.
Horrible movie.
Yeah. Great movie.
Oh,
you know who you are, Slick? You know what, Matt? You know who you are? You're Bo
Great
Callahan.
movie.
You're Bo Callahan. Nobody likes you.
Well, nobody came to my birthday party. I tell you that.
If this
Nobody
was draft day, if
You
this
can't
was-
be eating mother blank.
if this was draft day, all you got to do is just call at the very last second, and you can get 3 first-round picks for Jamal Adams.
I'm
There's
like,
absolutely no leverage to suggest you could.
I'm like Kevin Costner, but I want all my time back. I want it back. I want my time back.
Blake doesn't like it because it's not real. That's not how it really would have been in a war room. Because he's been in so many of them.
How do you know? I was going to say,
Right.
You know what?
I'm with you, Slick. Bothers me too. It bothers me too.
A war room could be totally different than the way they've perceived it to be or presented. It could be a
Jennifer Garner for crying out loud.
It could be a bunch of guys playing poker, eating pizza, smoking cigars. It's nothing like they present on social media.
Well, we got Holmgren. Let's ask Holmgren.
Yeah.
It's not as good as the Garner vehicle, Dude, Where's My Car? But she's got a nice library of work. All right, coming up next, there are a lot of decisions coming up for the Seahawks. I think I counted 11 starters are free agents for the Seahawks heading into the offseason. So we won't be able to get through all of them, but we'll figure out where our panelists, where their priorities are, who's going to be kept, who should be let go. We'll discuss some of the other difficult decisions John and Pete have to make heading into this Seahawk offseason right here on Sports Radio 950 KJR.
$1,000 in your hand. Win $1,000 now. Text the word LOVE, LOVE to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's LOVE to 200-200.
Footy.
So I realized now that I failed to share that we actually got a really cool Bud Light prize package to give away.
Oh no!
Oh boy!
Way to go, Rich.
That's not by me. So everyone so here's what we're gonna do, Chuck.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you mention, and everyone that's on the stream is getting an early idea. I'm gonna have you promote that this afternoon, listening to Softy's show. You're gonna have an opportunity to text a word to 49451 in order to win. So check this out. I think it's pretty cool. Maybe I'm an idiot, but it's a Bud Light grill. Like an actual grill, a Bud Light Bluetooth stand-up speaker, a Bud Light Seahawks, Bud Light Seahawks carpet, and then I'm forgetting the other
rug. It's more of a rug.
Yes, rug. Yes, that makes more sense. Sorry.
Although Slick would love to have the carpets in his house.
Is this like a throw or a tapestry? What
it's
are
a
we
rug, like you see in the sports bit. By the way, the better question is: did you sell GameStop? Holy crap!
You know what? I'm not even looking right now. What's going on with it?
Down 100
bucks a share.
Well, so here, but I don't know if this is the forum for that, but they think by doing this they're going to make it so that everyone sells because that's the only option they're giving them right now.
And they'll buy it back.
Which is crazy.
And then Chuck can get a menorah and a haircut.
Oh, yeah,
not in that order.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. What happened to Bucky? He fall in the river?
What if you saw him in the back drowning, slowly going away?
Yeah. You imagine, help!
Like Andy Bernard.
See his bald head.
He's back in the woods feeding his pet deer.
Honey, come say hello. Hey, look, it's
Gina. That is great.
Hey, how do we think this is going? Besides terrible,
I think it's good. I'm enjoying it.
I'm looking forward to the afternoon session. How about that?
Hey, Eric Palm Quest.
That sounds like an 80s movie. Palm Quest.
Palm Quest, starring Macaulay.
There's no way that's his real name. There's not a chance that's his real name.
Palm Quest with
hello,
Tom
honey.
Cruise.
Say hello.
Gina!
Hi, Gina.
She did not want to be on camera.
Yeah, not happy with me.
Yeah.
I'm getting no love tonight.
Someone's talking about squeezing Jamal Adams' juice.
What's that, honey?
Is that appropriate?
We're in a break, by the way.
The juice is not worth the squeeze. Good point.
The juice is not worth the squeeze.
That'll sum it up.
Slick.
I totally
yeah.
agree.
Look at that.
There you go.
MVP.
Slick's the real MVP. There you go.
There you
So
go.
Slick has more MVP votes than Russell Wilson.
Most
Oh,
valuable
that's a
ever.
good point.
Proud of you.
You ever see Revenge of the Nerds Part 2?
No.
Okay, never mind.
That first, you didn't turn into 2 after the cliffhanger from 1?
Hotel Essex.
I don't know if I want to go there for reference, James.
James with the comment of the day.
Oh,
of the
Making
day.
my life miserable, James. Thank you very much.
I'm having some terrible flashbacks. Oh.
Rich with the elephant in the room. I love the old elephant in the room.
I love a good
How the hell would the
elephant
elephant fit in the room?
Elephant in the room, weak ass schedule we had. We just said that. Why is Rich using a Google Images stock photo for his profile picture?
That's Rich.
I mean, and
That's really him.
And back to the playoff. Look, they only played 4 playoff teams this year. They went 2-2.
I'm concerned about where Bucky is, man.
That's how you get to 12-4. That's why they got to 12-4. They only played 4
Their
playoff.
defense was, come on, shut up about their defense improved. They played no one.
Well, they were better. They were better. They just weren't
better.
that
They
much
didn't play any. Look at the quarterbacks
they
they
get
beat.
better.
Look,
Who'd they beat? What quarterbacks did they beat?
Beat Jared Goff's ass. Regular
Okay,
season.
well, no one thinks Jared Goff's good, so there's one.
The Rams,
including his owner.
I mean, the owner doesn't even. The owner is going to make him compete for the job with an Oompa Loompa. That's how good Jared Goff is.
They beat Carson Wentz's ass.
Okay,
Monday
he's
night.
done. He sucks.
Okay, lost to Colt McCoy.
Wait,
Lost
was
to
Carson
Colt
Wentz even playing in that game?
Lost
They,
to Almond
Monday
McCoy
night, of
Morris.
course he did.
Yeah.
Did
Well,
he?
what a great Eagles fan you are.
Hurts only played 1 snap.
This whole season. Oh, that's okay.
Okay, what else?
Forget everything.
They beat Beat Hard.
Chuck,
Beat
they
hard.
Want Chuck, they want an Ocho.
Beat hard,
James wants an
man.
Ocho.
They didn't beat anyone.
They beat hard.
They were better, but they weren't that much better.
Bucky's current activity is a pretty significant event for the Texans.
Why wouldn't he just take a leak off in the river?
You think Bucky pees in the river?
Yes,
Bucky, do you pee in the river?
I
Hang
do.
on, you can't hear us yet.
Now we know why the river's so high.
Of course, he's peeing in the river.
A lot
Bucky,
of
can you see these comments?
Bucky peeing in the river comments, man. Bucky, do you pee in the river?
Yeah, I sure did.
For you.
Where did
No wonder
Bucky go?
One of the salmon are so big. Bucky's toxic pee.
Right.
He's steelhead.
That's why I won't fish in that river.
They found a steelhead with 17 eyes.
Yeah.
And a huge red beard.
That's right.
What do you get,
delicious.
Bucky? What are you getting there?
Just cutthroat. Little trout. They're nothing big. Like
You got you on a fly? Do you have a fly rod?
yeah. I got a spinning rod too, but that's what I'll teach my son with first.
There you
But
go. That's what I'm talking about.
but
Bucky,
yeah, you have to learn how to fly fish.
Can you teach me how to fish, Buggy?
I'd love to.
Come to your place.
Yes.
It's easy peasy.
Buy a man a fish.
You
Each
throw
for a day.
You throw the line in the water. Stand.
No, not fly fishing. Fly
Stand.
fishing's far superior to just sitting there and waiting for your bobber to go down.
Stand.
No, it's like hunting. It's hunting fish. You
And-
got to know where they are. You got to drop it on soft. Let the fly
And
present itself naturally, so there's no drag. You got
I know
to put
what
it
you
where they
mean.
are.
Bucky, do you have any
See-
elk meat in your refrigerator?
Oh, I got a full freezer full of elk
Do
meat.
you have anything in your refrigerator that was not shot by you?
Yeah, most stuff, but not my freezer. I mean,
Freezer's vegetables too, actually.
The freezer is all yes, organic. It's
Do you
organic,
own a
guys.
cow?
A cow?
Do you have a milk cow?
I do not have a milk cow.
Where do you think he
although
lives?
I usually do end up buying like a quarter of a cow.
Bucky could beat up a bear. That's
Yeah.
funny.
I almost had to beat up a bear a couple months ago. I caught on the show and I was like kind of hyperventilating. I walked out and there was a bear 10 feet from my front door.
Wow. I think in the summer you should do your show from a kiddie pool in the river.
It's cold all year. It's
All right, 10
really
seconds. Get
chilly.
your last good stuff out now.
Okay.
Was the bear, was it black, brown, or grizzly?
Black.
Oh, he's fine.
It was a teddy bear.
Yeah, okay.
Ozzy the
Yeah.
bear.
Now
Glad
back
he
to
ran
the
the other
state
way.
of Seattle football on your home for the 12th man in the NFL. Seattle's Sports Radio 950, KJR.
Chuck in the morning says been taken over. It's our State of Seattle Seahawks football show right here on Sports Radio 950 KJR. We want to thank our fine sponsors. Boy, this will get your mouth watering right here. We're going to go with Chambers Bay Distillery. Thanks to Chambers Bay Distillery for being a great partner and supporting all of our things this year, including Tony Softy during the 2020 football season. You got any Chambers Bay lying around there, Puck? Slick, you got some hooch underneath your table there, your desktop?
Wow. That would be wrong of me to do.
It's not 8:45 yet.
Okay. Well, we're
15 minutes away for that, Chuck. Come on.
Tell you what, if I do though, I'll put it in
do you
this.
think we are?
Put it in this here, in this Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. Double
I think
shot.
after having to do this show, we should all get something from Chambers Bay for sure.
Bucky has a sword. Bucky is now
got a sword.
Here's the disturbing thing for me: the way this video is set up. Bucky, if he wanted to, could actually make it look like he's jamming the sword into the top of my head.
It would be a soldier's death.
Yeah, do it. Put him out of his misery.
Put him on a
Put him out of his misery. There you go.
Oh my God!
Here lies Slickhawk.
That is terrifying.
It was
our producer.
Puckett, you make fun of my premium head roses again. Oh, wait, the other way. You'll get one of these too, right upside your dome.
Look at that
All I know
nature
is this.
backdrop.
I think during the COVID era, you should put your mask on with that sword and walk into a bank and see what happens.
It'd be normal. It's just personal protection. It's all.
Good luck.
The entire break, by the way, here on YouTube, the videos that we provided were about what Half Thor is going to do with his sword out there in nature. What beast he's going to kill.
What does he have to do to be a full Thor? I don't want to know. I don't want to know. Maybe called Dr. Arakaki, huh?
We have assembled everybody, Puck and Slick and Bucky and Softy, to talk some Seahawks football. We're going to do it again this afternoon, and you get the prize giveaway. Is that it, Softy? Bud Light Seltzer's got a prize giveaway. We're going to do it on your half of this, right?
Apparently we're giving away some pretty awesome stuff, courtesy of our friends over at Bud Light. Bud Light carpet. We're going to take care of your entire house with the Bud Light logo all over the floor. I'm not sure how many wives out there would be okay with that, but all kinds of cool stuff to give away coming up at 3 o'clock this afternoon. So stay tuned for that.
Does the carpet match the drapes?
You're just
That'd be pretty awesome, though.
in the gutter. Line. Here's the line. Here's you.
That'd be pretty sweet.
I bet those drapes exist. I can get those.
All right. Well, let's get into the Seahawks offseason that lies ahead, and monster decisions, and a lot of them that are going to have to be made by Pete and John. It starts with just coming to grips with the fact that you got a salary cap that's probably going to drop by over $20 million this offseason. First time that Pete and John have had to deal with that. Usually the salary cap goes up, but you're looking at Shaquille Griffin being a free agent, Poona Ford's being a free agent, KJ Wright facing free agency again this year. And you also need some upgrades on this team. So I just kind of, since we have a round table, let's go around the table. And Softy, I'll start with you. I mean, your priority this offseason, your upgrade or your free agent that you want to keep, or, I'll leave it to you. Blank canvas here. What is your priority for this team this offseason?
I don't know if there really is a major priority as far as the Seahawks roster is concerned. I mean, Shaquille Griffin is probably going to command a decent amount of money. Are they really ready to pay Shaquille Griffin $10 million plus per year, which is what the top 15 cornerbacks in the NFL make? I'm not sure if he deserves that or not, but you may have no choice but to pay him that kind of money. KJ Wright would love to bring him back, obviously. I think he'd have to take a pay cut, though, at his age, for sure. I feel pretty good about DJ Reed. DJ Reed is still, I believe, on his original rookie deal at the other side. And keep in mind, you're also going to get Marquise Blair back from injury to be your nickel back this year. So I think the safety position is pretty well set. I like Jordan Brooks getting a lot more playing time. I mean, Poona Ford, to me, is one of the best run-stopping defensive tackles in the NFL, and I would be sad to see that guy go, especially when you combine him with everything else they're doing on the defensive line. So I just don't feel like going into the offseason last year, got to bring Clowney back, right? And thank God they didn't, because the guy obviously was made of glass and barely played the entire year. But I don't think there's really an overwhelming must-have sign in this year's crop of players. I mean, they might be able to even get a discount on Chris Carson right? Who's banged up again. How much is he really going to make on the open market? Can they bring him back for, $3.5 million on a couple-year deal? That might be a great boon for them to get him back. But to me, there really isn't one obvious must-have re-sign. If there is one, probably Shaquille Griffin, honestly, Chuck, just because of how hard it is to find decent to above average starting corners in the NFL. But outside of him, I'm not really stressing about anybody. Puck?
I mean, I would go, I guess a wish list. I would say Poona Ford. I think I do like Poona Ford. I think Chris Carson. I think if you want to commit more to a running game and this is your identity clearly, then yeah, I think he has to come back. I just don't think that, Carlos Hyde's banged up and he's not as good as Chris Carson. And then you just can't depend on Rashad Penny. I mean, he is going to get into the pro size category real soon. You just cannot depend on Rashad Penny. So I would make Carson a priority. I would make Poona Ford a priority. Love to have KJ right back in whatever a cost that would make it beneficial for the Seahawks. They got to upgrade the tight ends room somehow, some way. They got to get better at that. Clearly, they got to look at the left guard situation on their offensive line. For Shaquille Griffin, yeah, I don't know. I don't have a desire to bring him back. I don't think it's a priority. Wow. I just don't think he really has shown much in his time here to be that elite corner that he wants to be paid. I don't think he's a number one corner. I think they can do better probably in the draft. And I loved what DJ Reed did. Just absolutely loved what he did. He plays with a fire and a passion. And I just think that I wouldn't overpay for Shaq at all.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I'm with you. I mean, he's an above average corner, I would say, but he's going to be asking for more than what he's worth. He's one of the guys that we've been talking about, the salary cap and the fact that you pay your quarterback as much as you do, and you got the highest paid middle linebacker, and now you're going to probably end up being married to paying the highest paid safety. That means somewhere along the line, you're going to have to do with some guys that are value guys, whether it's youngsters out of the draft and you'd hope they turn into something good. I think that when it comes to defense, on the defensive side of the ball, especially at corner, that's where Pete Carroll almost has to rely on, okay, we're going to not pay this money so we can spend it elsewhere. And I hope that my coaching and my scheme, I can put somebody in there that maybe isn't as good right off the bat, and I can make him serviceable to where he's not going to be, an eyesore for the team. And then the defensive line, I think you guys nailed it. Poona Ford, he's more of a run stuff guy, but he's the guy that I remember looking at him at training camp a couple years ago and thinking, if you stood all the D linemen next to each other, which one of these guys doesn't fit? Well, he goes out there and plays, regardless of what he looks like. He goes out there and plays like a true NFL caliber D lineman. So I don't think that a spot that you have a weakness like that, you still need some help on the D line. I don't think you can let a guy go like that, especially since you can get him for a value of some sort of value because he's a tackle. He's not necessarily a guy that's supposed to get after the pass rusher. I don't know exactly where I would say my number one priority is. My number one priority is how in the heck am I going to figure out how to piece this entire puzzle together when I have such big, high-priced items sprinkled across the offense and the defense. And in doing so, they're not going to be able to pay some of the guys like Shaq. They're not going to be able to pay everybody top dollar and get away with having the rest of their roster on peanuts.
I'm glad we were able to satisfy the many requests that we had for the Mountain to break down the Seahawks draft needs. So you're welcome. You're welcome, viewership. What's your wish list, Slickhawk? Where are you going to go with all this?
Well, the good thing with Poona Ford is a restricted free agent, so you should be able to bring him back. He's under your control, and you should be able to bring him back for fairly cheap. So that's good news there. Chris Carson, I know he wants to cash in, but you mentioned the injury concerns. He's also entering what I consider to be the most running back rich free agency class in NFL history. So I just think you're going to be able to get a little bit of a value on Chris Carson. I'd like to see both Carson and Hyde come back, to be perfectly honest. I think both of them could do well in this offense. And as far as cornerback goes, I mean, I think you're probably wanting to bring back either Griffin or Dunbar. If Griffin's asking for too much, Dunbar, he was hurt most of this season, pretty much all season. So I think he feels like he has a lot to prove, and you could probably get him on some kind of value too. So matching up a healthy Dunbar with DJ Reed, I think you could probably get away with that. That's kind of what I'm looking at from these free agents.
I think the Shaquille Griffin question is a huge conundrum for this football team because you got 20 guys in the NFL making $10 million or more per year, and Shaquille Griffin last year had, among corners with 320 snaps or more, had the 87th best passer rating in the NFL. 87th. Ugo Amadi had a better passer rating against than Shaquille Griffin did, and he played about 140 snaps less than he did. So I know Ugo's a nickel, obviously. Slick, did he play exclusively nickel at Oregon, or was he on the outside as well?
And that he played nickel and safety. He was a safety.
Okay, so I'm not sure if he can even slide over there, but I mean, look, I mean, I would love Puck to be where you are with just saying let him go and go find a cheaper option, but where? I mean, with who? They don't have any draft picks to go after a high-level corner, and high-level corners in free agency will probably cost more than Shaquille Griffin will, for crying out loud. So I think it's a major conundrum with this guy. I'm with Jason. I don't see one of the premier elite cornerbacks in the NFL, but because of the situation they're in, because of the market, because of their lack of draft picks, they may have no choice but to pay this guy.
Bring Sherman back.
I'd do that in a heartbeat.
I'm with that 100%.
Yeah. I just think you want somebody in the draft, and then you think you can coach them up. You get somebody, I know they don't have a bunch of draft picks. You get somebody later on, maybe what do they have, a third, or is it, a third and a fifth? You get somebody there, and you think you can coach them up. Second. And then if you can't, you all of a sudden, you have Blair coming back that can take that nickel spot. I think Ugo Amadi, he was a safety in college, but he's not really size-wise projected to be a safety in the NFL. Being a nickelback is essentially your third corner. I think he's a guy that plays smart. He can tackle. He does the little things correctly. Yeah. If you have Quentin Dunbar, you still have Trey Flowers in the mix, right? Where if he continues to evolve or ever does evolve essentially into, I think you just got to, that's where you got to kind of cut bait with some of the money you're planning on spending.
It's interesting. I don't know. I think maybe even Carol brought this up, or maybe it was Hugh. Somebody that was on our station had talked about. It was actually Softy. Yeah. The kind of the changing of offenses and wide receivers. I think back in the day when they put together the secondary, you had everyone's going to value bigger corners. But these bigger corners who went up against bigger wide receivers, you're seeing maybe a small change where you can have the most important quality now is just the quickness, how fast you are as a corner to keep up with these guys. Yeah. Maybe that's why a guy like DJ Reed, succeeded so much this year in their system. Maybe that's something that Ugo Amadi can do if you did put him on the outside and utilize his speed, and hopefully Blair comes back and he's healthy. I just think there's a creative way to get a little bit better at that position. I just wouldn't overpay for him. I just don't think he deserves what his production.
I love the idea of bringing Sherman back. I wonder if the Hawks would go down that road. I wonder if he would go down that road. And I also wonder if he can play, 500-600 snaps a year. I mean, at his age and the injuries he's had the last couple of years, there's no doubt in my mind that when Richard Sherman is healthy, I think he still is one of the top, 15, 20 corners at worst in the National Football League. So I would absolutely love to bring him back. But I don't know. I mean, do we see Pete Carroll and John Schneider even agreeing to even consider bringing a guy like that back?
I think so.
I think so. I mean, obviously it has to be there's a discussion to be held there. But, I think Seahawks players, they always seem to, they go away, a lot of them angry, and then want to come back. It's weird. Whether or not Sherman's one of those guys, I don't know. But I think they would have the door open under the right circumstance. Slick, KJ Wright, we had this conversation a year ago. How's this going to end? How's the KJ Wright and Seahawks history story going to conclude? And is that happening this offseason?
Yeah, I think it's going to end with him making a pretty good chunk of change elsewhere. Unfortunately, KJ Wright's one of those guys. Look, he's a Ring of Honor guy. He's a guy you'd love to see somebody like him finish his career as a Seahawk. But, I think it's going to end with him taking a one-day deal at the end of his career and retiring that way. I think it ends this offseason. You drafted Jordan Brooks for a reason. We talked about it earlier. And with all this we're talking about with the free agency, you have to get younger. You have to get cheaper. Unfortunately, I think that comes at the cost of a KJ Wright this offseason.
Yeah. Well, if they're going to play nickel, I mean, obviously there's only room for two linebackers. And like Matt said, you took Jordan Brooks in the first round. Right. So, I mean, if you pay KJ Wright the money he's looking for, he's not going to ride the bench. He's going to be out there with Bobby Wagner, getting 600 snaps a year. So I would love to see him back, because I'm with Puckett that I just think that this is a talent game. And you got one of the top 10 linebackers in the NFL, top 15 at worst linebackers in the NFL from last year. Getting rid of him for still an unknown in Jordan Brooks. I mean, I thought he flashed at the end of the year, no doubt about it. I mean, you want to go back and, show people why the Hawks drafted Jordan Brooks, go show them the goal line stand against the Rams in the regular season and the way he played on that drive. So I think he's got talent. I think he's a guy that can get in the backfield. I think he's going to be a guy that will live in the backfield, TFL, sacks, the whole thing. But at some point, you got to justify drafting him in the first round. And re-signing KJ Wright, having Bobby Wagner out there, letting those two guys get, 3/4 of the snaps at linebacker isn't justifying drafting Jordan Brooks in the first round. So I'd love to see him back. I think it's bad to lose guys like that, but because of the situation they put themselves in, by the way, I think Matt's probably right.
I think there's an intangible, too, of having someone around your team like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what the number is, what the price is, but I think that an intangible to have a guy that spent his entire career with your organization, has still played at a high level, and is a coach inside that locker room. I don't know. That's a price tag that I don't know. I don't know what the value of that is, but it's extreme. And and he's done nothing but be a rock solid pro from day one since he's been here.
Well, here's the conundrum, guys, is that either A, you're not playing your first round draft pick as much as you would like to play him, and you can't really justify the selection, or B, you're getting rid of one of your best players.
Yeah.
I mean, either way, you're losing in some aspects, unless Jordan Brooks is that good where he can step up right away and give you everything KJ Wright can do and more for a lot less money. If you're convinced he can do that, then make the move now and let him walk, and let KJ, they owe it to KJ Wright, I think, to put him in the best position where he can end his career the way he wants, make as much money as possible. I mean, they did the same thing, I think, with with Deshaun Shed. They even told him, look, we want you to go out there and get as much money as you can because of how much we respect you. And I think that kind of attitude, Chuck, actually serves them well when it comes to other free agents, other players around the NFL, very player-friendly front office in a lot of ways. So I just think either way, you're kind of at least temporarily behind the eight ball.
Yeah, he is making their farewell to KJ so difficult because he keeps playing well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He just keeps playing well. He can lose a step. He can lose a step and a half, and his brain and his knowledge and everything else makes up for it. Just what a remarkable Seahawk. All right, we got one more segment here with our crew. It's the State of Seattle Seahawk Football specialty show. Softy's here, Slick's here, Puck's here, Bucky's here. When we come back, we go with the real big picture ticket item here for our crew to close out our conversation. And then Greg Bell and Hugh Millen join us in the 9 o'clock hour, just the two of them, to analyze all of our thoughts on Sports Radio 950 KJR.
The bench is delirious. The crowd with arms in the air.
Your exclusive home for
Super Bowl 55.
Seattle Sports Radio 950 KJR.
That's it.
No, come here.
All right.
Hey, Shocky, real quick. Are Chuck, Slick, and I still doing it on this for the 9 o'clock hour?
Back to normal. This is the video portion just for these 2 hours. So everyone that's watching right now, we got a bunch of people. Will be at 9 o'clock. We're going to be going back to the normal radio, and then the video stream will be back for 3 p.m. with our crew at 3 p.m., including some guy named Mike Holmgren. Chuck, I don't know if have you heard of Mike Holmgren?
Nope.
Yeah, he I guess he did a little bit of work.
Is he a writer?
Yeah,
is he a writer? Or, yeah.
I have. He gave me a gift once. He gave me a baseball bat as a gift.
Oh, yeah.
So I know him.
So yeah, that'll be fun. I actually so he has a new mic over there at his place in Kirkland next to Chuck. Chuck and Mike are basically neighbors, you know.
Yeah, he invites me over all the time.
Yeah.
To hang with the family.
I love when the stuff that we use in our production is something that people remember. You're right, Jeremy. I was paying them in popsicles, not millions of dollars. So good.
That actually scares me. That promo scares me because he seems like such a nice, gentle bear when he comes on with us, and yet you hear that and you're like, oh, he was fiery. He would have been my kind of coach.
Leaper, hey, I miss Tecmo Tuesdays, man. Miss having me around for that.
Chuck, you could give the people that are listening on the stream. What's your last segment topic?
Just the big picture, like what is the state of Seattle football? How do you feel about it? How good do you feel? I'm going to bring up 49ers, Rams, Cardinals, stuff like that.
All right, folks on the air. while we're doing this, I want the people that are commenting, what do you believe is the state of Seattle football? Do you think so? Just predicting what people will say. No, Seattle Seahawks football. Yeah. Do you think people are generally positive about them right now?
About who?
It seems to me it's kind of trending toward a little negative.
Yeah.
How positive is anybody right after getting bounced out of the playoffs? Either, you know.
True.
What's the conversation here?
Texans are over the moon.
Why does Softy suck?
Yeah,
I agree with that.
The question, Softy, for the final segment, and then what we're asking the people to comment here is, what do they think the state of Seattle football is? What is the state of the Seahawks? Are they fine?
State of the Union, yeah.
Are they going in the right direction? I'm guessing James is not the only person that feels this way.
Well, I think, you know what, I'll do a Twitter poll. So, like, the State of the Union is strong, or, what would be the options? Strong, weak?
Strong, weak, trending up or trending down.
Okay.
I would say strong, weak, or strong, trending up, trending down, or weak.
What is the state of Seahawks football?
Not positive going into 2021.
So give me the four options again.
Strong, trending up, trending down, or weak.
Okay.
2 to 4 years away from a Super Bowl. Whew. Well,
sounds like a rebuild.
Yeah, the NFL, man, trying.
It's not that dire yet, but it could be there soon.
Stuck in neutral. If you're stuck in neutral, see, a smart man once said that if you're not going forward, you're going backward.
I just got a text from an ex-NFL GM. I asked him what the Hawks could get in return for Jamal Adams if they traded him right now.
Yeah.
Ask me on the air, I'll tell you.
Oh.
I say it too.
Ask me on the air.
Heart attack probability high.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's
every
Brian
game's
saying?
a heart attack. Every game's a heart attack.
That's the funny thing. Better than the 90s. Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty low bar, though, right?
It's a low bar.
Quinn. Hi, Quinn.
All right.
Let's see. Oh, geez. Jamie has the official answer here.
Jamie has what?
Jamie has the answer.
Up Sierra Russell.
Stop.
I'm telling you, there's wolves.
Here we go.
Well, Coward was right. She wanted out of here, right?
I think it was
To
her.
go to New York. What if Sierra said, "You know what? I want us to move to Wichita." He'd say, "Okay."
Up and coming scene.
Do it in a different accent that we've never heard before. What if he starts doing like a country accent this year? How y'all doing? Right? I mean, he's done everything else.
She goes Darius Rucker. She wants to launch a country career.
How y'all doing? Well, we're going to throw the ball a little more. Yeah, toss it around the yard. Somebody said that she wants him to be dressing and sounding like Future. And that's why, hey, look who's here.
Hello.
Jeez.
You know who he is?
Hi.
He's the NFL version of Kip Dynamite after he met LaFonda.
Hang on, we're going to... Okay, we're going full screen to the Puckett House.
Hey,
Hello.
look at that.
Hi.
Did you miss us?
Radio star.
Did you miss me more than everybody?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not showing everybody. Hang on.
Hey, what did you think of the UCLA gymnast floor routine the other day?
It was really good.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Seahawks nickel package? And should they play more zone?
I don't know what that means.
You know what? Neither do we.
You have a future in this business if you can admit that. Because we can't even admit it when we don't know.
All right, guys, 20 seconds, okay? Bye, Mari.
Keep her on the air.
Owen, 10 seconds.
Owen.
Hi, Owen. Say hi.
Hi.
Owen, say go Dogs.
Don't do it.
Oh, wow.
Your favorite wide
Oh,
receiver.
he's trained well.
Go Cougars.
Here we go, fellas.
Back to the state of Seattle football on your home for the 12th man in the NFL. Seattle Sports Radio 950, KJR.
Our final segment together this morning, the state of Seattle football. We've done a roundtable since 7 o'clock this morning. Coming up in our 9 o'clock hour, Greg Bell and Hugh Millen will join Bucky and I, and they will basically pick us apart for all our thoughts that we have shared throughout the course of the last couple of hours, trying to figure out where the Seahawks are. We also want to use these 2 hours to thank all of our sponsors throughout the football season, including Mike's Chili Parlor, for being a great partner and supporter of ours and sponsoring John Canzano during the 2020 football season that you can hear there on the Puck and Slick show. Jamal Adams value. Give me a bucket of Mike's chili, and I'll think about trading him.
Hey, I'm in.
Great chili.
I'm in.
Hot chili, cold beer, my friends. You know, that's the only 2 things you need in life, Chuck.
There ain't much I wouldn't give up for a bucket of Mike's chili, man, for sure.
Man.
So good.
What have you found out, Softy, about Jamal Adams' trade value?
Well, Matt was talking about moving him a while back, and I texted an ex-NFL GM who just wrote back and said they'd be hard-pressed to get a high second-round draft pick back for Jamal Adams. And you gave up 2 firsts for this guy.
And a third.
And Bradley McDougald, and you're going to flip all that 1 year later for maybe a high second round draft pick, probably a low second round draft.
What's that tell you about What's that tell you about what they gave up for him then? If 1 year later, after being a second team All Pro and breaking the record for defensive backs for sacks, you go from the value being a 2 firsts, a third, and Bradley McDougald to maybe a second round pick.
Yeah, I think,
and that's how you want to play.
I think it shows they gave up too much for him, for sure, but they gave it up nevertheless. I mean, it's not like that never happened, so you have to find a way to make this work. I just don't know what front office in their right mind would even do something like that and then turn around and lose the guy for maybe the 45th pick in the draft. So they're kind of screwed unless they can find a way to get more out of this defense with this guy. And really, in the end, let's face it, guys, it's not even about getting more out of Jamal Adams. It's about just winning with Jamal Adams, right? I mean, if they had won the Super Bowl or gone to the Super Bowl last year with Jamal Adams, no matter what role he played, no matter how effective, impactful he was, nobody would have given a damn. I mean, look, dude, they went to the Super Bowl and won it with Percy Harvin. Nobody was literally sitting around going, man, this is great, but you know what? It would have been so much better if we hadn't traded for Percy Harvin. You can stomach it when you win a championship, clearly.
Yeah. I think they're committed, and I don't think it bothers Pete. I mean, it might bother a lot of Seahawks fans that we gave up too much. Pete Carroll thinks he walks on water, so he loves Jamal Adams, so he's not having any sleepless nights over it, even though we might be. All right, final segment here together with our crew. We got Puck, we got Bucky, we got Slick, and we got Softy here. What is the state of Seattle football? I mean, where are they right now? You've got a division that was very good this year, could be trending toward getting better, for goodness sake. 49ers get a quarterback. How dangerous do they become again this offseason? Kyler Murray with a little more maturity. And the Rams regained something this year, even though obviously Jared Goff and Sean McVay are not seeing eye to eye. Bucky, I'll start with you. I mean, how should we feel about the state of Seattle football right now?
Well, Softy just put a tweet out there, and I think that, his strong, trending up, trending down, or weak. I think a lot of people feel weak right now about where the organization is for multiple reasons, and that's in part just because the recency bias of you just got bounced out of the playoffs. I think that's a bit firm. I wouldn't feel bad about where they are. They're still playoff contenders, just won their division. But I'm not on the good side of that either. I mean, I would say trending down just because I see all these things we've discussed for the last 2 hours, all of these issues at hand. Chuck, we do that 99 problems, but a B81 on our morning show, and you had 167 little, some minor, some big issues. There's a lot of issues that these guys have to tackle in the coming months to get ready for this next season. And a lot of them aren't going to be easy. The KJ Wrights, the Jamal Adams. I mean, just how you're going to fix that offensive line. What are you going to add to the defensive line? All of the salary cap issues. To me, it feels like they're still right there in the mix. But when you talk about this division, which you're right, Kyler Murray, another year of experience on his belt. You can't sleep on them. The Rams, they're the ones that bounce you out of the playoffs, whether you won the division or not. They're not going to be an easy game. The Niners, regardless of what they do with quarterback, they're still a good, talented team that was super injured this year. They come back healthy next year. You got an uphill battle, not an uphill battle, but you got a battle on your hands for this division. And so to me, it's kind of feeling like you're hanging right around where you want to be, but you need to be making steps forward. Otherwise, you're going backwards, in my opinion.
Slick?
The franchise right now, this offseason is at a crossroads. This is the most consequential offseason, maybe of the Pete Carroll and John Schneider era. We talked about the free agents that they have coming up. There is a shrinking salary cap, and you're short on draft picks. Every single decision made this offseason is magnified because, we talked about Pete Carroll's offensive philosophy. Maybe that's something that's been fixed with the hire of Shane Waldron. So that's something that puts them in the positive category, we hope. But as far as personnel and digging themselves out of this hole, they're going to have to do it. They've got to get younger. They've got to get cheaper. They got to and make quality signings this offseason, or it'll spiral out of control.
I think the key word would be uncertainty. I mean, I think uncertainty for the entire division because, Arizona's got obviously Kyler Murray, but you can take advantage. I mean, let's say the Rams go in a different direction here and whiff on the quarterback. Let's say, they get rid of Jared Goff and that doesn't pay off for them. But let's say San Francisco whiffs on the quarterback and they can't find a guy. So there you have an opportunity to elevate yourself in the division. But in terms of the crossroads, is a perfect word to describe, I think, the Seahawks in the next year or two. If this offensive coordinator and offense doesn't work, then they're going to have a conversation. Which way are they going to go? Because in 2023, is that when he's a free agent, I believe, or 2024? For Russell Wilson, does he make a decision based on what he doesn't like about the offense and move off? So in the next year or two, they better get this offensive coordinator situation right. Because if they don't, then he has a potential of walking or something happens, a split of the Wilson-Carroll relationship. So to me, the next year or two is massively important for this organization.
If you don't get that OC decision right, you've wasted another year or two of Wilson, window here, Softy. So feels to me like they're in a playoff window, but are they in a championship window? Your thoughts?
Well, they got 3 years left with Russell through 2023. So at some point in the near future, that obviously is going to be addressed. And just the update on the poll, 50% say they're trending down, 8% say weak. So 58% say trending down or weak. Only 19% say strong. So, I'm kind of with Matt that it just kind of feels like a crossroads, and is Pete Carroll going to evolve? Is he going to get with the times in 2021? And the best example I can give you is Andy Reid. I mean, if you go back and watch those Eagle teams that made the NFC Championship 4 years in a row, do those Eagle teams look the same as these Kansas City teams do for Andy Reid? Of course they don't. I mean, obviously he's got a different player in McNabb versus Patrick Mahomes, but Andy Reid seems to have evolved with the times. And that's why I think the Shane Waldron hire is so interesting. If he can bring some of that spice from LA that they had. And I remember watching them, I think it was against us, either the playoff game or the regular season. They ran a hook and ladder on a 2-point conversion, I think, against the Seahawks. And I'm like, wow, I'd love to see something like that. So if he can bring some of that and Carroll can let that kind of come to the forefront, they're going to have a shot. But man, this feels like the biggest challenge of the Carroll Schneider era, even bigger than building the first team that got to a Super Bowl because of the limited cap space, because you're paying your quarterback so much money, because of the lack of draft capital, at least for this season. So it's going to be very difficult to pull off. I think the odds say it's not going to happen again for them. But if they can find a little something with their offense and these youngsters on defense can pop, they're going to have a shot. And I think the division is always going to be there for the taking. I'm not worried about the division at all. What I'm worried about is making a run come playoff time. That's what I'm worried about, comparing the Hawks to the elite teams in the conference, not the teams in this division.
You guys should all get your own radio shows.
Been saying that for years.
Yeah, you're pretty good at this.
Yeah, well, this was, you know what this was, Chuck? This was like the state of Seattle football. This was the pilot episode. Now we have to go back to the producers and see if they want to bring it back for a season. So we'll see if it even happens at 3:00 today. Get mixed reaction.
Yeah, we might get cut after the pilot. You're right.
Yeah.
It just didn't test well.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks to all of you guys. We appreciate it. Jason Puckett, Slick. We got Bucky's going to continue with me here. And then, of course, we'll do this again this afternoon on the Softy show with Fane. And Coach Holmgren will be part of it. So all of that is coming up a little bit later on today. All right. Coming up next, Greg Bell and Hugh Millen are going to join Bucky and I, and they are going to analyze for us all of our thoughts. I hope they've been watching, listening, and taking notes. It's the state of Seattle football. We'll continue it on Sports Radio 950 KJR.
The bench is delirious. The crowd with arms in the air.
Your exclusive home for
Super Bowl 55.
Seattle Sports Radio 950 KJR.
That's it.
Okay, Chuck, Bucky, thank you. You got to get on the air on the other systems, so we'll say goodbye to you guys. Thank you for doing it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right,
Kevin, can you email me what the prize is again, and I'll pump it up
and
on the air.
We're still on the air here on the stream, by the way. So just
okay. Hi.
And I know that we got to say goodbye to Puckett, who has to make his way here. So we'll see you in a couple minutes here at the station. Thank you. And I just wanted to let everybody know. So yes, Softy is asking for in the 3 o'clock show today from 3 to 5. We're going to be doing a giveaway of some really cool Bud Light stuff: a Bud Light area rug, a Bud Light cooler, a Bud Light. Ooh, middle finger. I got to be careful about that one.
Whoa,
the third one,
buddy.
The third one is a Bud Light grill, like an actual Weber type grill, and a Bud Light stand-up speaker, Bluetooth speaker.
Ooh, can I have that?
They're calling it the Bud Light home gating package, which is really cool. And so we're going to be giving that away during the show. We're going to give a word today during the 3 to 5 show, and we're going to draw one winner from that. So you could just make sure to listen today at 3 o'clock, and you'll find out how you can win that. And I would say this is really fun. Softy, you have anything you want to say here as we're wrapping up?
So somebody wins that entire package. Is that correct?
Yep. One person's going to win the whole Bud Light home game
Very
package.
cool. All right. Just make sure you let me know who the winner is and where they live, because I want to party with that guy. That is awesome. Very cool. All right. 3 o'clock. We'll see you then.
Sounds good. See you, Softy. Everybody, thanks for listening, and thanks for joining us. I think it was pretty fun. We're going to do it again at 3 o'clock today. It's going to be Softy hosting with Dick on the panel, Ian Furness on the panel, Chuck on the panel, and some guy named Mike Holmgren. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait to see you all there. Hope you'll join us. And if you miss it or you want to go back and check, remember, you can always check our podcasts, sportsradiokjr.com, or on your iHeartRadio app. Just search for any of the shows, Furness Show, Slick and Puck, Chuck and Buck, Softy and Dick, whatever you want. You're going to be able to grab it. It's going to be a ton of fun. I hope you enjoyed this one. I did. I enjoyed being able to see the comments and doing all that sort of stuff. And we'll see you again today at 3 o'clock. Bye, everybody.